Inuerong shook her head. Since she dared to impersonate Yunma and deceived even President Yi, she naturally made flawless preparations. Even if we investigated her, we probably wouldn't discover anything. Furthermore, I think it's extremely possible there's a powerful person acting as a correspondent for her behind the scenes. The housekeeper bobbed her head in agreement. That's right. Otherwise, how could President Yi also be deceived? Inuerong's gaze shifted. Hence, this matter is of paramount importance, and we need to plan carefully. However, don't panic. Even the tightest scam has a flaw, and we'll eventually make her reveal a flaw. Don't act rashly and wait for my instructions. Worrylessnya, we'll take our time playing. Yes, the housekeeper responded. Inuerong said darkly, that girl is seriously gutsy for daring to do something like this. I don't believe Agio will remain unmoved when he discovers the truth. Judging from Agio's attitude tonight, he probably didn't recognize that woman and seriously thought she was President Yi's daughter. In that kind of situation, Yihin rejecting that woman was the same as rejecting President Yi's daughter, which was why Inuerong was so incensed. Thankfully, the more she thought about it, the more suspicious she found it. This woman was most likely an imposter. At the thought of gaining leverage against that girl, Inuerong's mood improved a lot. At that time, Lingjun absolutely wouldn't spare her. Impersonating the Arbitration Council president's daughter, that was simply provoking the entire Arbitration Council's authority. Lingjun and his power alone would bring retribution on her. For this crime, the entire Nye family would also be ruined. At Tinshui City's expensive Shannan Manors, Medusa guided Yuanwan to where she would be staying. Before the banquet, Yuanwan had settled things with Big Dipper and the others already. She told them she'd return to Yun City first and ordered them to remain in Tinshui City to continue scouting for information. Medusa showed her around the house. Little junior sister, rest well. Call me if you need anything, all right? Tonight, Yuanwan's acting skills were epic and she exhausted too much energy, so she did feel a bit exhausted right now. Yuanwan yawned and hugged Medusa. All right, senior sister. You should go to sleep early too. You've also had a tiring day. Medusa exasperatedly responded. It was mainly from fright due to you. I was seriously afraid you'd let the cat out of the bag earlier. Yuanwan chuckled. How about it? I performed quite well, right? Medusa also smiled. You were truly fearsome, and I bow to you. You're clearly the same person, but you give off a completely different feeling. I think even Director C didn't recognize you. Yuanwan was filled with relish. Of course, I'm a professional actor, after all. She was so tragically deceived by Ciyin back then. Now, she could finally give him a taste of his own medicine. I think Yin Heng is beside himself with anxiety. He actually tried to drive a wedge between you two in front of you. Medusa seriously looked down on men like Yin Heng. They were willing to advance by hook or crook and had no scruples about relying on women to elevate themselves. Afterward, he'd even swagger around and gloat. A cold glint flitted through Yi Wanwan's eyes. However, they slapped my baby's face before. I'll get payback all for him. How are you planning to deal with him? Medusa asked. Yuanwan blinked. Who said I'd do anything to him? I don't have any free time. A foreboding feeling crept up on Medusa for some reason. Then you're going to? Yuanwan rubbed her chin. Starting tomorrow, I'll officially pursue Director C. Medusa. This was freaking crueler than doing something to him, wasn't it? Yin Heng would probably be angered to death. She could already imagine the incoming uproar. At a bar, Yin Heng chugged glass after glass of liquor. Tonight was supposed to be a show. It was supposed to be his moment to mercilessly suppress Ciyin. He didn't expect everything to have been disrupted because of Yunma's appearance. Due to Yunma's ambiguous words and attitude towards Ciyin and her invitation, everyone's attention centered on Ciyin. Behind Yin Heng's back, some people even said it was because Ciyin ignored Qin Shiyuan that she settled for second best and sought Yin Heng out. Also, Yunma's final words tonight. What if I said I did? I did. I did what? Could it be Yunma seriously bore those kinds of intentions towards Si Yihan? Why? Hung heavily slammed the glass onto the bar with a bang. Upon seeing that, the confidant next to him quickly comforted him. Young Master Ian, I think it's very possible you're overthinking. After all, Missy didn't sound certain either. For someone of Miss Yi's status and background, her actions and speech aren't that simple or ordinary. How could she casually take a fancy to a man she just met at a banquet? I don't think we should mess ourselves up. Hung glanced at his confidant and hummed. Then what do you think Yuma really meant? The confidant provided his analysis. Young master, I understand women like Yuma too well. They're conceited and look down on everyone from the depths of their hearts. They're both cold and haughty and probably feel repulsed and disgusted by men. You can tell from her attitude toward those men tonight. Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm Hung asked. Then how would you explain her attitude toward Si Yian? She had the waiter switch his wine with ginseng soup and also had him bring Si Yian a blanket. It was precisely because Yunma was too cold and haughty that her special attitude toward Si Yihan especially incentivized people to dive deeper into its meaning. The confidant replied, Young master, your vision is hazed because you're in the midst of it. I think that Miss Yi's attitude toward Si Yihan tonight was merely a little more polite and doesn't prove anything. She probably took preserving face for President into consideration and tried to befriend and win over Si Yihan out of President Yi's admiration for Si Yihan. Although this explanation also dissatisfied Hung a lot, it was better than Yunma taking a fancy to Si Yihan. So, young master, it's most important for you to grasp onto Miss Qin tightly right now. If you evoke Miss Qin's wrath, that'd be the true disaster. The confidant advised. Hung finally calmed down a smidge now. You're right. He easily lost control whenever he encountered matters related to Si Yihan. Carefully thinking back on it now, he didn't overreact a bit. After all, there wasn't a whiff of anything concrete with Yunma yet, while Qin Shiyuan already belonged to him. He also had Qin Shiyuan arrange a position for him during this year's summit, so he could attend it. He might not have any real power in this position right now, but it was a good stepping stone. After the summit concluded, Qin's own would arrange for him to enter the arbitration council. He had no idea how Si Yian managed to snake his way into a position as high as director and hold a position on equal status with Inuero. This caused all his hard work over the years in the Yin family to be washed down the drain. No matter how hard he worked, he was a joke when compared to Si Yian. He must seize this opportunity and absolutely couldn't allow a millimeter of error. The next day, the Arbitration Council Summit officially convened, and the entire day was overtaken by intense meetings attended by every single higher-up and director. That night, Jun held a party for his precious daughter to both welcome her and to help her befriend more people. A party held by Jun for his daughter was absolutely an event people wanted to attend, even if they had to bulldoze each other. Thankfully, Jun was probably in a good mood from being reunited with his daughter, so he invited his disciples and some higher-ups from the Arbitration Council. Nearly all of the well-known members of Tianshui City also attended as well. Qin Shiyuan and Hung naturally attended. Several socialites were gathered together and brimmed with stunned admiration as they examined the sumptuous setting of the venue and the long line of prestigious guests. Wow, what an enormous procession! Right? It's just a normal party, but it's more extravagant than Qin Shiyuan's coming-of-age ceremony back then. After all, she's the daughter of Sir President. Even though there's just a single word difference between president and vice president, the differences are mammoth, all right. Should tone it down. Don't let Qin Shiyuan overhear you. Discussions similar to this hadn't ceased since yesterday night, so how could Qin Shiyuan be ignorant to thoughts like this? However, due to father's instructions, she repressed herself from erupting. She seriously couldn't understand how President Yi suddenly gained a daughter, especially one so similar looking to worryless Nya. What was more coincidental was that Yunma also seemed to have taken a fancy to Si Yihan. Qin Shiyuan secretly sent people to investigate her, and there didn't seem to be any flaws regarding Yunma's identity. She was indeed President Yi's daughter, but Qin Shiyuan still felt like something was off about it. Was there some issue there? Inhang's attitude today regained its previous gentleness and consideration. He accompanied her the entire time and took care of her attentively. Yuan, what did Vice President Qin say about me entering the arbitration council? Don't worry, I've already mentioned it to Father, and there won't be any problems. There happens to be an opening for a director position and requires someone suitable to take it. Joy took over Inhang's face. Seriously? That's great. This way, I can do my dues for Vice President Qin and help him more by his side. As for Yuan, she was about to break down because of Jun. She had finally waited until today's meetings concluded and was prepared to launch her plan to find Yin. However, to her surprise, Jun planned some kind of party and invited a bunch of people, dragging her and introducing her to every single person. Judging from his behavior, he wanted nothing more than to brag and show to everyone that he had a daughter. Yuan was so exhausted she didn't want to tread another step. Say, Master. Jun's expression dropped instantly. What did you call me? Yuan could only correct herself. Sir, Father, I have business to take care of, so can I leave now? Jun rolled his eyes at her. You're the main star today, so how could you leave now? Anyway, what business could you possibly have? To find my man, of course. I was planning to ask him out on a date tonight, but you ruined all my plans. Yuan said righteously. Jun's expression darkened. What do you want to seek him out for, huh? You want to seek him out, but he doesn't care about you, let alone go on a date with you. I also invited that guy to tonight's party, but he's the one who didn't want to come. He must not like you, so you should stop chasing after him, or else you're going to end up like Qin Shiyuan. I can't lose face. Yuan peered at him from the corner of her eyes. Are you kidding me, Dad? Forget about me switching disguises, but even if I stuff myself into a turtle shell, if I wanted to seduce him, I could absolutely seduce him. Jun had nothing but disdain on his face, his disbelief clear as day. I don't think so. He didn't want to come despite me personally inviting him. So he probably doesn't want to be connected to you in any way or fashion. Yuan was rendered speechless by Jun, her feelings complicated. From worryless Nie's viewpoint, she should be happy that Yihin didn't come. However, from Yunma's viewpoint, she was a bit angry. Freaking. Who cared who she was? She just had to become connected to him. Yuan occasionally glanced at the entrance, but still didn't see Yihin's figure. However, the people hitting on her came one wave after another. In some nearby corner, the director, who brought his son to gain favor with Yuan last time, but had his son run off on him, was also in attendance today. Su Yang, if you dare to run away again today like last time, you don't want to know how I'll punish you. Dad, could it be that you brought me back here simply to make me do this kind of thing? To seduce and curry favor with a woman? The youth was infuriated, his eyes scarlet. The director snorted. Why else? Your martial arts skills are the same as a crippled person. Aside from having a decent-looking face, what use are you to the Su family? Dad, the youth was incredulous. If you dare to be disobedient again this time, pack your bags and leave the Su family. The director handed a room card to him. I've arranged everything already, so immediately get your ass in this room. As long as you can make Missy happy, I'll consider the matter of bringing your mother back to the independent state. The youth tightly clenched the room card, his eyes gradually becoming resigned. Yuan's attention was wholeheartedly focused on the entrance, so she was ignorant to the events occurring in the dark. It was halfway through the party, and the one person who should have come still wasn't here. Yuan lost all patience and was about to leave since she was selling an apathetic and haughty persona anyway. However, she had just taken a step when she saw a familiar figure appearing at the entrance with Lin Kei and Yu Xiao trailing behind him. Since today's party was more private and less official, Yihin was dressed slightly more casually. He was wearing a loose-cut casual outfit with a windbreaker over it. His pale complexion caused his self-restrictive demeanor to lose some of its harshness and look a little more harmless. It was harder for people to look away. Damn, he finally came. Yuan wasted half a night waiting, so she was rather resentful. "Director C, welcome." Ling Jun walked over and greeted him with a wine glass in hand. He said with a concerned tone, "If you truly felt unwell, you didn't need to come." As soon as Yihin came, his daughter had no time to pay attention to him, her dad. Yihin politely said, "It was just some mild illness. How could I pass on the president's invitation? Furthermore, I would like to discuss the proposed law from last time with you in detail." Yi Wanwan's expression darkened when she heard this from nearby. "Don't tell me he came here despite not feeling well purely because of Ling Jun?" Ling Jun glanced at Yi Wanwan, clearly rejoicing in her misfortune. He passionately received Yihin. "Great, great, great. We'll talk over there." He dragged Yihin away immediately. They utterly ignored Yi Wanwan. Medusa walked over and whispered to Yi Wanwan, "Little junior sister, Yihin really seems to be completely uninterested in you." Yi Wanwan, was she seriously old and unable to lift a backsword anymore? She actually couldn't seduce him. Chapter 23-21 Forceful Abduction. Yihin's arrival still evoked quite a big wave. After all, there were many members of the Arbitration Council present, and word of the incident last night had spread. Every guest heard that this haughty and condescending Miss ignored everyone but solely exchanged a few words with Yihin and invited him to dance with her. Everyone was waiting for the next scoop of gossip, but Missy didn't seem to show any reaction to Yihin's arrival and stayed seated where she was, conversing with Medusa without a glance at Yihin. In reality, before Yi Wanwan could do anything, Ling Jun had hogged Yihin all to himself the second Yihin arrived. Upon seeing the lack of interaction between Yunmo and Yihin, In Hung, who had been paying close attention this whole time, finally breathed a sigh of relief. He really did overthink things. Yihin's attitude was a big hit to Yi Wanwan, and she was unable to recover from the setback, listlessly sitting in her seat. Medusa cleared her throat before comforting her. "Little junior sister, this proves he's devotedly loyal to you, so you should be happy instead. When you recover your identity as worryless Nya, you can go on whatever date you want." Yi Wanwan grumbled, "But I want to go on a date with him now." It felt too terrible being able to see him, but unable to touch him. Medusa glanced at Yihin and tactfully said, "Judging from his current attitude, I reckon that's unlikely." Yi Wanwan was wallowing in her dejection when a thought sparked in her mind. "Why is it unlikely? Who am I? I'm not worryless Nye right now. I'm the daughter of the Arbitration Council's president right now." Yi Wanwan excitedly turned to Medusa and exclaimed, "Why am I pursuing him or asking him on a date? Why do I need to go through the trouble of pursuing him? With my current identity and background, I can throw my weight around and abduct him forcefully." Medusa said, "Wasn't there something wrong with those words?" But after carefully thinking about it, it sounded rather reasonable. After realizing this, Yi Wanwan resurrected to full health and gracefully stood up on her high heels. Tonight, she had applied a slightly smoky look and wore a black evening gown that revealed the beautiful butterfly bones on her back. The straps of her high heels were designed as vines wrapping around her ankles, making her fair skin particularly seductive. She nonchalantly sauntered towards Yihin, akin to a black rose under the moon, dangerous and mesmerizing. So pretty, nearly everyone's gazes were glued to this girl. When Ling Jun saw his daughter approaching them, he asked with his eyes, "What are you doing now? He clearly doesn't want to talk to you. He directly rejected you last night." Yi Wanwan ignored Ling Jun and stopped in front of Yihin. "Director C, dance with me." Yihin, Ling Jun, all the observers, it was the same exact words as last night. If it was merely a casual invitation last night, then this second occurrence tonight couldn't be explained away, right? After an unknown amount of time spent in a peculiar silence, Yihin slightly looked up at the girl and said, "Miss E, apologies, but I am busy today." He actually rejected her again. All the guests were simply incredulous, and their eyes simultaneously shot toward Yi Wanwan. Could she seriously tolerate it after being rejected twice in a row? Yi Wanwan's lips curled up in a stunning and bewitching smirk as she slowly leaned down, stopping next to Si Yihan's ear. Director C, I'm not asking for your opinion. After saying that, she directly snapped shut the open file in Si Yihan's hand and stuffed it into Lingjuan's arms. Now you aren't busy. She then glared at Lingjun in warning. Lingjun gulped. Sigh. I'm old and my energy can't keep up. Let's discuss the matter another day. Si Yihan. Currently, the guests nearby might appear to be bustling with conversation, but in reality, every single pair of eyes had drifted toward them. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao were standing fairly close and didn't dare to even breathe too loudly as they watched the pair in a standstill with their swords drawn. Qin Shiyuan was originally suspicious due to Yunma's looks, but became uncertain when she saw Si Yihan's attitude. The more Lin Ke mulled over it, the more dismayed he became. However, he seriously couldn't think of a solution, so he hid to the side and lit a cigarette, spitting out a billow of smoke. The smoke followed the wind and happened to float towards Si Yihan. Yuan was waiting for Si Yihan's response, but her gaze shot toward Lin Ke like a blade as she said, "The cigarette, snuff it out." Lin Ke was dumbfounded, the cigarette between his lips. Huh. Yuan extended her hand to wave away the wisp of smoke in front of Si Yihan before repeating, "Snuff out the cigarette." Lin Ke looked at Yuan and looked at Si Yihan before finally realizing what she meant. He didn't say anything, but complaints overflowed inside. Are you for real? Ninth brother is a man, so do you need to fuss over nothing when he's inhaling a little smoke? Lin Ke resentfully glanced at his ninth brother before obediently putting out his cigarette. Si Yihan naturally saw Lin Ke's resentful gaze, but didn't reveal anything in his expression. His finger lightly tapped against the glass surface of the bar, his unfathomable, starry eyes silently staring at the girl. Yuan said, "Director C this way." She extended her arm towards Si Yihan. Si Yihan glanced at the girl's soft and delicate palm before slowly standing up and enveloping her small hand with his bigger hand. Accompanied by the melodious sound of the violin, the two of them stepped onto the dance floor. On the dance floor, everyone subconsciously stopped their steps and retreated to the side. These two people were seriously too dazzling. Their motions and steps as they danced clearly appeared nonchalant, but they matched so well that they resembled a passionately in-love couple. As everyone was amazed over this, they reflexively peered at Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng. People were originally amazed over this golden couple. Now, when they were compared to the couple on the dance floor, they became nothing. TSK, impressive. As expected, its eldest young master See who's more impressive. I admit defeat. So, in other words, Qin Shiyuan was really lying, right? Say, do you think eldest miss got together with Yin Heng because she was rejected and was shamed into anger? Most likely. Where does Yin Heng have the capability? He was nothing but a manager after being in the Yin family for so many years. With that smidge of abilities he has, he can only pick up what Si Yihan doesn't want. As the words around them turned more and more unpleasant, the more Qin Shiyuan found Yin Heng found displeasing. She shoved him away and stomped away angrily in her high heels. She originally got together with Yin Heng to make Si Yihan regret it and humiliate him. Who would have expected the president's daughter to take a fancy to him and cause her to turn into a joke? Yin Heng staggered from the push, but his eyes remained intently glued to the couple on the dance floor, his expression abnormally dark. How great an honor it was to obtain the favor of Vice President Qin's daughter. But now, all the honor had turned into humiliation, and he became a clown from the comparison. On the dance floor, Si Yihan had one hand laid over the girl's hand, while his other hand was around her waist, but he didn't actually touch her. He was a rather proper gentleman. Yuan stared at a certain someone's aloof and distant chin. She ground her teeth before saying with a fake smile, "Director C is such a true gentleman." "You're overpraising me, Miss E," Si Yihan replied. Yuan pointedly said, "I heard Director C has a fiancée. Someone who can make Director C safeguard his purity this closely. She must be a perfect woman, right?" Si Yihan glanced at her. "It happens to be the opposite." Yuan was startled. "The opposite? What does he mean? Cian actually said, I'm not perfect? Cian responded, she isn't perfect. She's impulsive, easy to angry, terrible when drunk, unreasonable, likes to get into trouble, likes to get jealous a lot, and likes to deceive people. She especially likes to agree overtly, but oppose people in secret. Yuan 1. Si Yihin continued. When she promises me something on the surface, she never obediently adheres to it in secret and will always act outside my estimates and expectations. Yuan 1. Every day I spend with her, it feels like an adventure. After listening to Si Yihin trash talk and bring up a bunch of her flaws, Yuan 1 nearly couldn't keep her expression in check anymore, and her tone darkened. Is that so? Since your fiancée is so awful, what do you like about her? Si Yihin's gaze crashed into the girl's dazzlingly starry eyes. Missy, I thought I explained myself clearly just now. Yuan 1. Yuan 1 dazedly froze in her spot, unable to react for an eternity. He explained himself clearly just now? What did he explain? He was clearly trash-talking her. So what Si Yihin meant was, everything he said just now was what he liked about her. Si Yihin said, because that person is her in my eyes, her good qualities are in the thousands. Fuck. Yuan 1's heart started leaping madly. Those words were more touching than fiercely praising her to be a goddess who was visiting the mortal realm. Freak. What the heck was going on with Si Yihin? Back then, his emotional intelligence was clearly in the negative, but now he had turned over an entirely new leaf. She came here to seduce him today, but got seduced instead without warning. The song concluded and thunderous clapping drowned the room. Missy, you danced too well. That's right, that's right. You're a goddess who descended to this world. Read more chapters at List Novel. Come, Miss E, business matters plague me, so please excuse me. Yuan 1 took a glass of red wine from a nearby server's tray and gently swirled it. I'll escort you. Si Yihin was expressionless. No need. Yuan 1 continued to swirl her glass. TSK, he managed to escape yesterday. Does he think he can still escape today? The next second, Yuan 1 nonchalantly twisted her wrist, and over half of the glass was spilled onto Si Yihin's clothes. Ninth brother. Lin K jolted in fright. Ninth brother, are you all right? Si Yihin furrowed his brows and raised his hand. I'm fine. I'm truly sorry. Although Yuan 1 said that, there wasn't a trace of apologeticness on her face. She ordered a nearby server, prepare a clean outfit, and send it to my room. The server immediately responded, yes. Yuan 1 turned to Si Yihin. Director Si, you can come upstairs with me and change your clothes first before leaving. Lin K helplessly watched this scene and felt like a flame was burning underneath him from the anxiety. Fuck. TTH this was a real-life female hegemon. How could she? Didn't she see that ninth brother was unwilling? Plus, she clearly splashed that red wine on purpose. Put nicely, ninth brother would be following her to change his clothes, but who knew what she wanted to do? This was basically the saying Sima Zhao's trick is so obvious that everyone knows. Even Ling Jun almost couldn't keep watching anymore. Good daughter, could you be any more obvious? However, Yuan 1 naturally ignored him. This method might be shameless, but it was very useful. It was both logical and reasonable, so Si Yihin couldn't find a good reason to reject it. And so, Yuan 1 openly made Si Yihin follow her upstairs to her room. Her position was too disadvantageous tonight. She must gain the upper hand this round. In the back, Lin K ran around in circles in distress, but was powerless. He shook Yu Xiao despairingly. This is a hoax. A blatant hoax. Yu Xiao cleared his throat. Lower your voice. Don't overreact. I think Miss E just wants to become friends with Sir. Plus, I still maintain my initial viewpoint, and there isn't anything bad about this. Furthermore, Miss E has a much higher position than Qin Shiyuan. If we obtain Miss Yi's assistance, what we want to accomplish will become much simpler. Lin K glared at him instantly. Your initial viewpoint? What's your initial viewpoint, huh? Have ninth brother use the beauty trap? Yu Xiao retorted. Why do you have to put so badly? He just has to use a tiny bit. I dare you to repeat that in front of that demoness, worryless nya. Thankfully, the previous Qin Shiyun didn't get her way, but Yunma is different. This woman is too scary. Even Ninth Master can't fend her off. If this continues, I'm afraid Ninth Master really can't protect his purity. At that time, it's not just a problem of a beauty trap. You'll have to start calculating how many times that demoness will hack you with her backsword. Yu Xiao, his math was bad. It'd be better if he didn't calculate it. On the way there, Yi Wanwan kept to herself and maintained her haughty persona as she expressionlessly led Si Yihan to her room. The party was held at Tianshui City's biggest hotel. Yi Lingjun had reserved the whole place, and Yi Wanwan's room was the presidential suite on the hotel's top floor. Ding! The elevator chimed, and the duo reached the top floor. This way, Yi Wanwan walked ahead and pulled out a door card from her purse and opened the room door. It seemed like a maid had lit some essential oil inside the room, so there was a very strong scent. The aroma wasn't bad smelling. It was just so intense that it made people uncomfortable. I already had people prepare some clothes beforehand, so you can change into them first, Director C. Yi Wanwan then added intentionally, if you don't find it troublesome, you'll have to strip anyway. Si Yihan acted like he didn't understand Yi Wanwan's underlying meaning. Thank you, Miss C. Then, he picked up the clothes, sitting on the sofa, and headed toward the inner room. Why did he go that far to change his clothes? This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh light novel. Yi Wanwan felt pitiful and stretched her neck to secretly peek inside, her mind surreptitiously running through the best method of attacking later. However, after waiting for an eternity, there still weren't any movements from Si Yihan. What's happening? Does it take that long to change his clothes? Why isn't he done yet? In her puzzlement, Yi Wanwan stood up and walked inside. She wasn't trying to intentionally sneak a peek or anything. She was just worried about him. Director C. When Yi Wanwan reached the door to the inner room, she saw that Si Yihan hadn't entered at all and had maintained his position of opening the door. His icy gaze was staring at something inside the room, a chilling aura emanating from his entire person. Yi Wanwan had no idea what happened, so she hastily walked over to see what was inside the room. Yi Wanwan had just reached the door and didn't have time to clearly see what was happening inside before Si Yihan took off his black jacket extremely fast and tossed it toward the bed inside the room, covering something up. Then, as though Si Yihan felt like it wasn't enough, he severely ordered her, "Close your eyes." Yi Wanwan was about to look at the bed, but reflexively closed her eyes obediently. Shit, just what kind of situation was this? Why was Si Yihan's expression so awful? What could be on the bed that would anger Si Yihan to this extent? It couldn't be a naked man, right? Dead silence invaded the air, and she could only hear Si Yihan's heavy breathing from his rage. Not only were Yi Wanwan's eyes closed, but she also had no idea what was going on. It felt truly torturous. At this moment, rustling noises were heard from the bed. Later, a hoarse and panicked voice drifted to her ears. Missy shit. Why was there another man's voice inside the room? Yi Wanwan couldn't resist it anymore and opened her eyes in a flash, only to see, fuck, there really was a man on the bed. And she'd seen this man before. It was the lamb-like youth whom a director introduced her last time. She felt like this dad had nefarious intentions and might want to sell his son for glory. She never expected him to be so efficient and move so quickly. He packed the youth up and sent him to her bed the very next day. Missy, the youth lay on the bed, the upper half of his body completely naked and half covered by the jacket Si Yihan threw at him. His face was flushed and he couldn't say anything. He never expected Yunma to not come alone and to also bring a man here. In addition, this man was Director C. Yi Wanwan stared at the man on the bed and cautiously glanced at Si Yihan next to her. This situation simply made her head swell. Fuck, she was absolutely screwed over badly. Your father sent you here? Yi Wanwan harshly asked with a cold expression, trying her hardest to draw the line between them. Baby, you mustn't misunderstand me. I didn't know anything. The youth was trembling slightly and was going to cower back, but thought of something. He mustered his courage, tossed away the jacket over him, and threw himself in front of Yuan. "Missy, I beg you, don't kick me away. I'll do anything you want me to." Yuan narrowly dodged the youth's touch, her expression terrible. "Get out." The youth understood very well that he'd be doomed if he was kicked out by Yuan like this, so he could only continue to plead, "Missy, I beg you, don't kick me out. At least you don't dislike me, right? You said I had a lot of character. See Yihin." Yuan felt like she just got fucked over. Shit, it was just an offhanded remark. She didn't mean anything else. Yuan reflexively turned and was about to say something to Si Yihin. However, Si Yihin had languidly fixed his sleeves and turned around already. "Since Missy is busy, I won't disturb you." The next second, without waiting for Yuan's explanation, the hotel room door was slammed shut with a bang. Ew. Yuan stared at the youth, angered to the point of not knowing what to say. Yet this youth was probably a victim too. "Get dressed." Yuan could only throw these words behind her before rushing to chase after Si Yihin. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao couldn't follow Si Yihin, so they could only anxiously wait at the bottom. To their surprise, within a few minutes, they caught sight of Si Yihin walking out of the elevator by himself. Si Yihin was wearing only a single shirt. The button at the top of his collar was unbuttoned, and his expression was dark as ink. This scene was seriously too misleading. "Oh shit, don't tell me he really got..." Lin Ke turned pale with fright and dashed up. Ninth brother, are you all right? Where are your clothes? What did eldest Missy do to you? Didn't he go to change his clothes? How come his jacket disappeared, and he came out with just his shirt?" Si Yihin's extremely chilly gaze shot toward him, and Lin Ke immediately quieted, not daring to ask another word. Yu Xiao and Lin Ke met each other's eyes, their emotions complicated. When Yuan finally caught up, all she saw were the taillights of a car. Si Yihin had driven away already. When Medusa passed by, she happened to see Yuan and rushed over, lowering her voice. "Little junior sister, why are you standing here?" Yuan released a long sigh, overwrought. "It's a long story. Hurry. Where's your car, senior sister? Help me catch up to Si Yihin's car first. I'll tell you in the car." "Okay." The two of them hurriedly entered the car. Medusa was driving while Yuan sat in the front passenger seat. "What happened? Didn't you accompany Director C upstairs to change his clothes?" Medusa was puzzled. Yuan's expression darkened. "Don't bring it up. I finally managed to abduct him upstairs and didn't have time to do anything before. Guess what? As soon as I entered, I discovered a giant present waiting for me. A giant present. A naked man lying on my bed. Si Yihin ran headfirst into him. Was I wrong or what? Cough. How did that happen? Who did it?" Yuan leaned forward to look ahead as she grumbled. "That Director Su." "Director Su? No wonder. This does seem like something he'd do." Sigh, this incident was truly too coincidental. Medusa didn't know whether to cry or laugh. The more Yuan thought about it, the angrier she got. "Exactly. He ruined my plans for no reason." Medusa said, "Director Su is blinded by greed and has always achieved his goals by hook or crook. From what I know, Director Su's-san has a decent character, so he was probably forced by his father and has it rather rough. Since you abandoned him and ran out tonight, he'll probably have a hard time when he gets home." Yuan's eyes glinted. "I'm very sympathetic to his ordeal, but I'm very sorry I'm not some holy mother and can't rescue everyone in the world. This matter isn't within my jurisdiction." She put herself on the other side of the equation. If this incident tonight befell Si Yihin, and someone sent some pitiful, beautiful woman with a tragic background to Si Yihin, and Si Yihin helped that woman, even if it was solely out of sympathy, she would still feel very uncomfortable about that. She already caused Si Yihin to misunderstand her, so how could she meddle in this matter still? What would she be then? Call her selfish or unsympathetic? But other people's business had nothing to do with her. Medusa was truly surprised when she saw Yuan's nervous and avoidant attitude. This was her first time seeing little junior sister caring so much about a person. Medusa said, "Your method isn't wrong. Otherwise, if you made this a first, and everyone else started following along, you won't be able to handle it. Anyway, it's not convenient for you to do this. It'd be awful if Si Yihan misunderstood you again. Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. Yi Wanwan immediately looked at her gratefully. Thank you, senior sister. You're the best. Why are you being polite to me? The two of them arrived in front of Si Yihan's current residence. They were about to exit the car when Yi Wanwan suddenly stopped Medusa. Senior sister, wait. The duo had parked the car far away and saw that a car seemed to have been parked at the entrance for a very long time. As soon as Si Yihan arrived, the doors to that car opened, and a woman wearing a steward uniform, who looked to be in her 50s or 60s, walked out. Behind the housekeeper were two young, beautiful, and exquisitely dressed girls. One of the girls was exceedingly beautiful, while the other was bewitching and seductively. They were two entirely different types, but both had extremely outstanding looks. When the two girls saw Si Yihan, their eyes brightened, and they unwaveringly stared at him. Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes, feeling the situation taking a downturn. Eldest young master, you're back. The housekeeper respectfully bowed at Si Yihan. Si Yihan glanced at the two women behind the housekeeper. His mood was bad to begin with, but his expression darkened even more. It appears Director Yin doesn't recall what I said to her at the banquet last time. The housekeeper had her head lowered and said neither servile nor haughty. Eldest young master, I'm merely obeying my orders. Madam ordered me to bring these people to you. If you don't accept it, I can only continue to send more. When Lin Ke felt his ninth brother's expression turning more frightening, he felt as though his head could explode. There was already a hole in the ceiling, but it just had to keep raining every night. How come they couldn't nip these peach blossoms, and they increased instead? Say, Annie Chiao, how can you guys act like this? Ninth brother already said he doesn't need them, but you just have to keep sending them. Lin Ke angrily cried. This old servant is just obeying her orders. If eldest young master doesn't like these two girls, this old servant can send other girls tomorrow. The housekeeper was unrelenting. Lin Ke. Nearby, the volume of their conversation was enough for Yi Wanwan to hear it clearly. She finally realized what was going on. She knew it. She knew it. The matter was identical to her initial anticipations. Yin Yuerong really was poaching her prey from the very beginning, and she was sending people every single day. Yi Wanwan pushed open the door with a swish and stomped out. Medusa was afraid Yi Wanwan would wreak havoc, so she hastily followed. Housekeeper Chiao. The girl's clear and melodious voice surprised the housekeeper, and the woman reflexively turned to the speaker. You are... The housekeeper never saw Yi Wanwan in real person, but had seen her in photos, so she immediately recognized the newcomer. Miss Nya. Behind Yi Wanwan, Medusa spoke up. This is President Yi's daughter, the Yunma, Miss Yi. The housekeeper's expression turned serious, and she immediately greeted Yi Wanwan reverently. So you're Miss Yi? This old servant has been rude. So, she was Yi Yunma, the woman whose identity old madam suspected. Lin Ke looked at Yi Yunma, who suddenly appeared, and turned further dumbstruck. Damn, why did this woman chase us all the way here? What does she want? Yu Xiao looked at Yi Yunma and the housekeeper and her two accompanying beautiful women. His head pounded incessantly. What kind of strange scene was this? Yi Wanwan's face was frosty as she surveyed the two beautiful women behind the housekeeper. Housekeeper Chiao, it appears my recent attitude wasn't expressed clearly enough. Housekeeper Chiao kept her head lowered. This old servant doesn't understand your meaning, Miss C. Chapter 23-28. Launch Rampage Mode. Yi Wanwan's lips curled up at the corners, and the chilly aura around her intensified. You don't need to understand anything. You just need to know one thing. I don't care who sent you here, but if I see women appearing within half a step of Director C again, you're solely responsible for the consequences. Housekeeper Chiao. Si Yihan. Lin Ke. Why is this tone so familiar? Yu Xiao. Medusa. The housekeeper was dazed for half a day, at a loss for words. The other person's aura was seriously too frightening. She exerted a terrifying, murderous aura and a formidable pressure that belonged to a superior person. Yi Wanwan's face turned chillier. Her aloof glance felt like a snowstorm. I'll give you 3 seconds. Take your people and scram. The two girls' eyes shot open. They never expected the president's daughter to appear here, bust out, and steal a man from them. Unwillingness was written all over their faces, and they kept looking at Si Yihan. After all, as long as they were accepted by Si Yihan, their futures would be bright and smooth. How could they willingly give up such a great opportunity? The seemingly pure-looking girl glanced at Si Yihan aggrievedly before mustering her courage and protesting. Miss E, even if you're President Yi's daughter, aren't you acting too tyrannically? The other seductive girl quickly agreed. That's right. Why won't you allow us to come to Director C's place? He doesn't belong to anyone. Yi Wanwan's eyes were downcast as she chuckled lowly. In the next second, the reverberating clang of a blade was heard as Yi Wanwan casually drew out the backsword Medusa carried on her person at all times and chopped the floor by the girl's feet. A crack instantly appeared on the marble floor and stretched to the tips of the girl's toes. That bloodthirsty posture of an army crawling out of hell scared the two girls to the point of screaming. Yi Wanwan asked, "You won't leave?" "Sure, then stay behind." In other words, leave your lives behind. No. We'll leave. We'll immediately leave. The two girls didn't dare to linger and stumbled and staggered their way into the car. This woman was the daughter of Yiling Jun. What didn't she dare to do? Upon seeing this, the housekeeper could only also leave for now. After all, even old Madam couldn't determine this woman's identity. If this woman really was Yi Yunma and she antagonized her, they wouldn't be able to endure the consequences. After the housekeeper left, no one said anything, and the entrance was deadly silent. Yi Wanwan didn't utter a single word and silently stood there, negative ions emanating from her every cell. Her fury was on the brink of explosion. Judging for what housekeeper Chiao said just now, this wasn't Yin Yuerong's first time sending women to see Yihan's doorstep. Fuck. She could forgive the most beautiful woman of Tianshui City, Qin Shiyuan, but even Si Yihan's real mom was poaching her man while sparing no pains. She had obediently waited in Yun City, but what she got was peach blossom admirers fluttering everywhere and throwing themselves at her man one after another. If she hadn't come, wouldn't he be drowned by his peach blossoms? Gah! Medusa didn't dare to even breathe too loudly and carefully stared at the backsword in Yi Wanwan's hand. "Yumai, sword, be careful with it. It was over." It appeared little junior sister really reached her limits this time and was scarier than last time. Lin Kei and Yu Xiao also stopped breathing in their fright. Lin Kei grumbled in an extremely quiet voice. "Why does this attitude look more and more familiar to me?" Chapter 23-29. You want to bribe me with just this? Meanwhile, Yu Xiao was incredibly anxious. What should they do? It wouldn't do them any good if they really infuriated Yunma. Judging from Yunma's personality, she was probably spoiled rotten by President Yi and would obtain whatever she wanted regardless of what it was. Furthermore, other people weren't permitted to even touch it. When she liked you, she could listen and do anything you wanted her to do. However, if she was humiliated into anger and she sought retaliation, it'd be over for them. Lin Kei, how about you go and explain things to Missy? Don't drag us down too, Yu Xiao urged. Lin Kei immediately retreated a step. Are you kidding me? She has a sword in her hand. What if her hand slips? I won't go. If you dare, you go. Yu Xiao had no choice and could do nothing but fret anxiously. It was improbable for him to rely on Si Yihan to pacify and sweet-talk her. Yi Wanwan threw the backsword back to Medusa and looked at the man across from her. She snorted and said, "It appears Director C is surrounded by beautiful women and spending every day in paradise. You seem to be having quite the time in Tianshui City, are indulging in pleasure, and have forgotten your home and duties." I was being meddlesome. Yi Wanwan took a deep step and forcefully suppressed her fury before turning and leaving. If she continued to stay there, she couldn't guarantee what she would do. However, she had just taken a step when her icy hand was clasped from behind. Yi Wanwan stiffened and paused. Her eyes followed the big hand holding her, and she crashed into a pair of deep eyes. Yi Wanwan was expressionless. "What are you doing, Director C? Missy, how about you come inside and have some tea?" "Yi Wanwan, have some tea your ass. I'm full from my anger." Yi Wanwan's face remained chilly. "Forget it. It's late already. Director C is probably unavailable." "I'm available. I still won't drink it." Si Yihin sighed lightly, extended his arms, and gently pulled her into his arms. "Don't be angry. It's my fault." Yi Wanwan, Lin Ke, and Yu Xiao's eyes shot open. What the heck was happening? Ninth brother held Yi Yunma's hand of his own volition and also embraced her. Wasn't this too shocking? Medusa was startled initially before exasperation filled her face. Si Yihin probably recognized little junior sister. If she still hadn't lost her disguise, it'd be a miracle. However, she had no idea when this man realized this. When a man's extremely gentle voice drifted into Yi Wanwan's ears and paired with that long-absent embrace, a lump entered her throat and she felt like a popped balloon. However, when Yi Wanwan saw his attractive face, rage resurged inside of her. It's improper for a man and woman to touch each other. Director C, please conduct. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Or before she could finish saying, "Conduct yourself with dignity," the man's cool lips pressed down and stopped her following words. Yi Wanwan. The final remaining anger inside, Yi Wanwan instantly dissipated. She blinked and finally realized something. "Did I lose my disguise? Damn, ninth brother!" Lin Ke exclaimed out loud. Yu Xiao was also dumbstruck. Si Yihin originally intended to stop at a light kiss, but the girl's dazed reaction probably pleased him, so he tightened his hold around her waist and kissed her deeper. He finally stopped a moment later, his hand softly petting the top of her head. Yi Wanwan's expression stiffened and she cleared her throat. "You want to bribe me with just this? What do you want then? Sleep with me. Okay." Chapter 2330. This familiar flavor of PDA at the door. Although Medusa was mentally prepared, she was still a loss for words. However, her little junior sister lost her disguise already, so she could only go home first. As for Yu Xiao and Lin Ke, in the night wind, the duo was still frozen like a statue as they watched Yi Yunma and Si Yihin entering the mansion together. "Yu Xiao, what should we do?" Lin Ke, didn't you always suggest ninth brother to use the beauty trap? Isn't this perfect according to you? Yu Xiao, but I never said to have Sir go sleep. Sleep. Lin Ke couldn't listen anymore and finished it for him. "Sleep with her." Yu Xiao chased after them in a panic. "I can't. I must stop Sir Director." Lin Ke hastily grabbed a hold of him. "Come back. Why are you so slow-witted? Can't you tell yet?" Yu Xiao was startled. "Tell what?" Lin Ke grumbled. "Yi Yunma is worryless nya." "What did you say? How's that possible?" Lin Ke looped his arm over Yu Xiao's shoulders, his voice resolute. "I also thought it was impossible, but believe me, I wouldn't mistake this familiar flavor of pedia even if I had my eyes closed." Yu Xiao. Inside the bedroom, Yi Wanwan furiously sat down on the bed. As Si Yihin loosened the buttons on his dress shirt with one hand, he leaned over to pat her on the head with the other hand. "Wait for me to change." He got splashed with a full cup of red wine by Yi Wanwan earlier. His jacket wasn't the only casualty. His dress shirt also got stained quite a bit. Si Yihin's motions as he changed were leisurely and simply pleasing to the eye. However, he was just too slow. As Yi Wanwan sat there, she was evidently impatient. Si Yihin naturally noticed her expression. He stopped, leaving his buttons halfway buttoned. He approached her, still angry, upon seeing Si Yihin finally sparing that shirt. Yi Wanwan's expression eased a little. She pulled and forcefully pressed him onto the bed. "When did you recognize me?" Si Yihin, "Just now." Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes, clearly disbelieving him. "Really? Si Yihin could only correct himself. When you invited me to dance with you. Tell the truth. Si Yihin's lips turned up. The first time I saw you. Yi Wanwan was stupefied. That's illogical. He actually recognized me so easily, and you kept rejecting me? Yi Wanwan glared at him. Si Yihin replied, I was just cooperating with you. Yi Wanwan actually had nothing to refute that. She originally thought she was the champion already. And yeah, she was the champion indeed, but Si Yihin was more heavenly defying. He was the GM. Si Yihin clasped her waist with one hand and aloofly asked, You don't need to return to the hotel? At the mention of the hotel, Yi Wanwan naturally recalled the wild man on her bed. Yi Wanwan sounded weaker immediately. Ahem, why would I return to the hotel? Of course I don't have to. I really didn't know anything about tonight's incident. It was all Director Su's fault. He stuffed that guy inside my room. I'm also the victim here. Anyhow, I just had one guy, but someone's been sending you beautiful women every single day. Si Yihin said, I need to apologize to you regarding my mother's matter. I was worried you'd get angry, which was why I didn't want you to come to Tinshui City and stick your feet into this messy situation. How could she still be angry after listening to Si Yihin's words? Her heart panged for him. Then we're even. You also aren't allowed to be angry anymore. Yi Wanwan said, I'll try my best. Yi Wanwan, shouldn't he open-heartedly say he's not angry? Does he have to be so honest? Fine. Your vinegar factory is large-scaled. Whatever you say goes. Chapter 23:31. Who doesn't know how to compete with their dads? When Yi Wanwan saw that Si Yihin wasn't asking her about Yunma, she couldn't resist asking, Aren't you going to ask me what's the deal with Yunma? Si Yihin embraced her. If you want to tell me, you'll naturally tell me. Well, this actually involved Lingjuan's secret, and I can't tell an outsider, or else it'd probably set off a giant storm. Yi Wanwan's tone took a turn. However, you're not an outsider anyway, so it's fine to tell you. Si Yihin's eyes softened upon hearing this. Well, Lingjun actually has a secret identity, and his other identity happens to be someone I know. Another identity? Lingjuan's second identity was someone Yi Wanwan knew. Si Yihin couldn't figure it out immediately. Yi Wanwan nodded and replied, You definitely won't believe it when I tell you. Lingjuan's other alias is Lianjua. Astonishment flickered through Si Yihin's eyes. This answer was truly very surprising. Lianjua, your master? Yi Wanwan sighed. That's right. It's him. When he found me, I was also scared witless and never expected that old freak, Lianjua, to have such an alias. One of them was a well-respected martial arts master, while the other one was an old freak whom everyone in the independent state wants to throttle. These two people, who are as different night and day, are actually the same person. After hearing this, Si Yihin finally understood the whole story of the matter. No wonder. Yi Wanwan continued to explain. As for why I suddenly turned into his daughter, it's merely that guy's awful sense of humor. He doesn't have a daughter, so he wanted to abduct one without having to do anything to enjoy the fun of it. Of course, I couldn't agree to that kind of ridiculous request. But then, that day I saw Si Yihin seemed to have realized something. When I visited President Yi that day, you were also there. Yi Wanwan's eyes were resentful. That's right. I also saw Qin Shiyuan getting handsy with you. How could I tolerate it? So, I agreed to it in my anger. Competing dads? Who doesn't know how? So the table in President Yi's living room, I broke it. The crack on the floor, I hacked it. Si Yihin. So all the things she said on the phone that day, telling him to rest easy and saying she absolutely wouldn't be impulsive or misunderstand. Not a single word was true. He should have known. As they spoke, Yi Wanwan's phone started ringing. It was Lingjun calling. Yi Wanwan exasperatedly accepted the call. As soon as the call connected, Lingjuan's emotional, accusatory voice was heard. What happened to your professional standard and I absolutely won't lose my disguise, huh? Yi Wanwan unhappily poked Si Yihin and didn't stop until Si Yihin grabbed her unruly hands. She sighed and replied to Yiling Jun, "Disguise? What disguise? I've been transparent in front of my baby since the beginning." Yiling Jun, see Yihan. Yuan continued. "It's perfect that I lost my disguise. Saves me the work of tiring myself to death in pursuing him again. All right, I'll talk to you later, Dad. I'm gonna hang up now. I gotta sleep. Good night, bye-bye." Yiling Jun protested. Wait. Were you sleeping, huh? Hey. Beep, beep, beep. Yuan decisively hung up. Yuan said, "You promised you'll sleep with me tonight. You can't go back on it." "You can come over any time," Si Yihan replied. "Much better." Chapter 2332. Choke them to death early next morning. "Why did you wake up so early?" Yuan poked out her head from the covers. "Meeting," Si Yihan replied. Yuan's eyes turned, and she instantly nestled out of the covers with a roll. Oh, a meeting, is it? I'll take you there." Si Yihan covered her with a blanket again. "No need. Sleep a little more." Yuan's fighting spirit was brimming. "No way. I have to drive you there. I haven't started spreading dog food yet. I must choke that dog couple to death." Si Yihan exasperatedly glanced at her and could only watch her leap out like an Energizer bunny. Yuan gave senior sister a call and asked her to send someone to drive her car over there. Then, she put on her makeup and changed her clothes at lightning speed, switching into Yunma mode. This sports car was prepared for her by Yiling Jun, but she hadn't used it before. It happened to come in handy now. The meeting was held at the Arbitration Council building. Under the morning sun, all the higher-ups and directors of the Arbitration Council arrived in succession. Qin Xuan, Yin Heng, and several directors were engaged in conversation by the entrance. With Qin Zong's assistance, Yin Heng could attend the meeting too. Although he was just a spectator, it was the same as halfway entering the Arbitration Council. At that moment, a flashy, newest model, silver sports car halted to a stop with a swish, attracting quite a number of gazes. The back door opened, and Yuan stepped out in her 12-centimeter high heels. "Missy, good morning, Miss E. Are you also here to attend the meeting, Miss C?" Many people started greeting Yuan, their imaginations surging. It appeared Yiling Jun was truly preparing to allow Yunma to enter the Arbitration Council. Yuan maintained her chilly expression amidst everyone's rampant discussion and aloofly said, "The meeting is unrelated to me. I'm merely dropping someone off." Dropping someone off? Everyone was more shocked. Dropping off who? Who was powerful enough to make Yunma personally drop them off? President E had entered already, so it couldn't be President E. Under everyone's intense stares, the other car door opened, and Si Yihan stepped out. "Damn, isn't that Director? Director C? What's going on? Why did Director C come out of Miss Yi's car? Miss E is dropping off Director C?" Yin Heng's expression froze the same moment everyone's gaze turned to him. He had obtained information last night that said Si Yihan came out not long after entering Yunma's room. So he eased up. Who would have expected Si Yihan to come out of Yunma's car this early in the morning? After Si Yihan exited the car, he stopped in front of Yuan. "I'm going to the meeting now." "Okay." After saying that, Si Yihan prepared to enter. Yuan's brows raised as she called out, "Hold on." Si Yihan paused. "Is there something else, Miss E? Haven't you forgotten something, Director C?" Before Si Yihan could react, Yuan took a step forward and leaned over, pressing a kiss on his lips. Gasps surrounded them. Nearly everyone was stupefied. Shit, what kind of shocking scene was this? The morning sun bore down on a girl, standing on her tiptoes and kissing a man, creating a scene as beautiful as an oil painting. Chapter 2333. Directly going public, Si Yihan concealed the gentleness that wouldn't dissipate from his eyes and lowered his voice as he said, "Don't overdo it." Otherwise, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to control himself or continue cooperating with her act. "Oh my God, what did I see? This is considered directly going public, right? It's going public without a doubt, all right? If everything before was still ambiguous and suggestive, now it was definitely without a doubt. Nearby, director Sue felt sweat drenching him as he watched this scene from a corner. He never expected Yunma to have really taken a fancy to see Yin. In the end, by sending his son to her last night, not only did he not gain any favor with Yunma, but he also disturbed her plan. He didn't know whether it was his imagination or not, but Director C's gaze toward him today also seemed especially frightening. Aside from Director Sue, everyone with ulterior motives also shook their heads and sighed. Now, they wouldn't have a chance. Having made up their goodbye kiss, Yuanwan finally allowed Si Yihin to leave. After spreading the dog food, Yuanwan drove back to the mansion. Yuanwan was originally planning to go back to her room to sleep some more when a knock was suddenly heard at her door. "Enter. Housekeeper Wu, what is it?" Yuanwan asked when she saw the housekeeper, who pushed open the door. This residence and housekeeper were all prepared for her by Lingjun. She heard that this housekeeper had been working for the Yi clan for many years and was considered an all-knowing character in Tianshui City. It was because of this that Lingjun had placed Yi Wanwan in this housekeeper's care without worry. Aside from arranging for Yi Wanwan's daily necessities, if she needed any minor matters to be handled, she could leave them to this housekeeper and they'd be done perfectly. After all, Yuanwan hadn't been in Tianshui City long and was unfamiliar with Tianshui City still, especially the intricate and complicated power web. She might get into big trouble with perhaps the slightest accident. "Miss, there's a young chap, an elderly man asking to see you," the housekeeper reported to Yi Wanwan reverently. "Elderly man? Young chap?" Yuanwan was pensive. "Yes." The housekeeper nodded. "They visited before dawn, but you went to sleep already, miss, so I didn't disturb you." "All right, Housekeeper Wu. Let them enter," Yuanwan said. After obtaining Yi Wanwan's permission, Housekeeper Wu didn't say anything else and turned to leave. Yuanwan guessed that the young chap and elderly man Housekeeper Wu spoke of might be First Elder and the others. As she expected, several minutes later, Housekeeper Wu led Big Dipper and First Elder inside the room. "You can leave for now, Housekeeper Wu," Yuanwan said. "All right, Mississippi, call me if you need anything." Housekeeper Wu retreated from the room, closing the door behind her. After Housekeeper Wu left, Yuanwan imperceptibly surveyed First Elder and Big Dipper. She inevitably felt confused about how First Elder and Big Dipper knew she lived here. "You use this phone, right?" Big Dipper examined Yuanwan a few times before asking uncertainly. Wasn't the woman in front of him seriously too different from the cis Fong in his mind, who committed any imaginable misdeed? Although there weren't many changes in terms of appearance, what was the matter with this bone-chilling aura? Furthermore, the makeup was also drastically different. In his memory, cis Fong dressed up and put on makeup very rarely. Even if she did put makeup on, it was very reserved, and she liked to turn herself into an angelic little fairy. On the other hand, this woman's makeup fully displayed her beauty vividly without any restraint and was very prominent. Chapter 2334. Did something major forget about Big Dipper, but even First Elder was a bit suspicious and uncertain, afraid they'd found the wrong person. Before Big Dipper could say anything else, Yuanwan casually sat back on the sofa and impatiently ordered, "Spit it out." Big Dipper. He repented for his previous thoughts. This was President Fearless, Sis Fong herself, for sure. "Damn, Sis Fong. Aren't you too gutsy? You actually dared to impersonate President Yi's daughter. If you're discovered, it's not a joke." Big Dipper was soaked in sweat from fright. He originally just visited to feel things out, but didn't expect it to really be true. They were seriously too naive to have actually thought Sis Fong had changed and obediently returned to Yin City. They didn't expect her to create a debacle and cause trouble as soon as she came. She dared to pull off something like impersonating Lingjuan's daughter. "How did you find me?" Yuanwan was curious. "Wasn't there a gathering for the Arbitration Council's higher-ups yesterday?" "Well, we were following Yueron the whole time and happened to see you, Sis Fong, when the event was over. However, there were too many people and you looked slightly different, so we didn't dare to attempt to see you. Anyway, we found out you lived here afterward," Big Dipper explained. You were following Inuero? Yuan looked at Big Dipper. Why were you following Inuero? Wasn't scouting information from her mission you gave us, Sisfong? Big Dipper asked. Yuan was dumbfounded. She just told them to scout for information. She didn't tell them to follow Inuero. Who was Inuero? Where did they get the guts to rashly follow her? They were lucky to still be alive. Sisfong, your phone has been unreachable. Something major happened last night. Big Dipper exclaimed with a sigh. What happened? Yuan frowned. She was with Siyin last night, and they were finally able to spend time alone, so she turned off her phone before going to bed. Third Elder was captured while he was near Inuerong's house. We got this information in the middle of the night, Big Dipper said. Third Elder was captured. Yuan was startled. Weren't you guys together? No wonder Big Dipper and First Elder sought her out in such a great hurry. Sisfong, we work in 3 shifts and switch between following and scouting. Big Dipper replied matter-of-factly. The corners of Yuan's lips twitched, unable to say anything for several minutes. She truly underestimated these fools' ability to kill themselves. Sisfong, hurry and think of something. I think Third Elder's fate is hanging by a thread this time, ending up in Inuerong's hands. He'll lose a layer of skin even if he doesn't die. Big Dipper said anxiously. What's the hurry? Have you forgotten who our president is right now? As the daughter of President E right now, it'll be a piece of cake for her to save Third Elder, First Elder retorted. Yuan rubbed her chin and thought for a moment before shaking her head. How did you get the news that Third Elder was captured? Information leaked from Een residents, of course. How else would we find out? Big Dipper asked. Wait. Yuan looked pensive. With Inuerong's capabilities, this type of information absolutely couldn't leak out easily if she was unwilling. Unless it was information Inuerong purposely leaked out. If it was information Inuerong purposely leaked out, then the tricks inside would be immeasurable and things absolutely weren't as simple as they appeared. First of all, Inuerong had always been suspicious of her identity as the president's daughter. So if she appeared at this moment and rescued Third Elder, even if she did it nonchalantly, it would be the same as ripping away her own disguise to someone like Inuerong. Chapter 2335. That was gifting a kill. She had to be extremely cautious regarding her identity toward Inuerong. Currently speaking, she couldn't expose it to those higher-ups from the Arbitration Council, especially Inuerong. If other people learned that Lingjun had intentionally deceived people, it might impact Lingjuan's prestige. Sisfong, what's wrong? Big Dipper asked Yuan inquisitively. Nothing. Yuan shook her head and said to Big Dipper and First Elder a moment later, I'll continue to leave this matter regarding Third Elder to you guys. Leave this matter to us? Big Dipper was astonished. What does leave this matter to us mean, Sisfong? Rescue Third Elder. Yuan said matter-of-factly. Huh. Big Dipper and First Elder met each other's eyes. Rescue Third Elder? How? Third Elder was currently in Inuerong's possession and was definitely imprisoned inside her house. Should they infiltrate Inuerong's house to rescue Third Elder? That wasn't rescuing someone. That was gifting a kill. Sisfong, are you serious? Big Dipper's lips twitched. What kind of grievances and enmities did she have with them? It wasn't that they didn't want to rescue Third Elder, but the main problem was the enemy was too powerful. If they really went to rescue Third Elder, they'd be dying hand in hand with Third Elder. President. First Elder looked at Yuan and calmly said, with the current situation, it isn't realistic for us to rely on ourselves to rescue Third Elder. Inuerong must be very vigilant, and I reckon she probably made all the preparations already. She's probably planning to catch a turtle in a jar and catch us in one fell swoop. Yuan smiled faintly and waved her hand. I'm not telling you to go to the Een residence to rescue Third Elder, but you must go through all the motions on the surface. Sisfong, what do you mean? How come I don't understand? Big Dipper asked. You have to at least let Inuerong know you're really anxious and are trying to think of a rescue method. That's all you need to do. As for Third Elder, you won't need to worry about him. Yuan explained. Big Dipper still didn't fully understand his president's meaning or objective. Upon seeing Big Dipper about to inquire some more, Yuan interrupted. Don't ask anything else. Just do as I say. I will handle Third Elder's matter, all right? Since you said that, then I understand, Sisphone. I'm good at performing the gestures and putting on a show. Leave it to me. There won't be any problems. Big Dipper promised her with a slap of his chest. After Big Dipper and First Elder left, Yuan went back to sleep. In the next few days, Yuan frequently attended all sorts of seminars and occasions with Ling Jun and acted like she didn't care about Third Elder being captured. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Since Yuan suspected her, she'd beat that woman at her own game. Furthermore, Yuan told Si Yihan that he must guarantee Third Elder's safety, so she felt a little more at ease with Si Yihan watching. However, Si Yihan could only assure her that Third Elder's life wasn't at risk and couldn't guarantee anything else. Yuan was well aware of Si Yihan and Yuan's current relationship, so it was already enough that she knew Third Elder was fine right now. At the Yin residence, in the past several days, Yunma didn't show up and seemed to be ignorant of the information they leaked. Furthermore, the Fearless Alliance group kept lingering around the Yin residence all day long as though they were thinking up a method to rescue the elderly man who was captured. Madam, there seems to be something strange about this matter. Chapter 23:36. Isn't that too coincidental? In the living room, Yuan's expression was dark as ink as she listened to Annie Chiao. Yuan was quiet for a moment before turning to Annie Chiao. I think it's strange now that you mention it. I intentionally leaked this information in order to mess up Worryless Nie's own plans. There should be zero slip-ups when it's a matter of a Fearless Alliance higher-up's life or death. Madam, if that's the case, I think there are only two possibilities, Annie Chiao said. Annie Chiao, tell me, which two possibilities could it be? Yuan asked. All right, Annie Chiao nodded. Madam, the person captured is Third Elder from the Fearless Alliance and appears to have a rather close relationship with Worryless Nie. But is it possible that Worryless Nie doesn't care about Third Elder's life or death at all? If that's the case, even if Worryless Nie was impersonating Yunma, she wouldn't care about Third Elder's fate. Yuan mulled over it for a minute before shaking her head. No, I discovered that Worryless Nie is a particularly loyal person, not to mention an elder from the Fearless Alliance. But even if the hostage was a mid-level higher-up, she wouldn't leave them to die. Moreover, this Third Elder is rather close to her. Many days ago, Yuan launched a thorough investigation on Yuan and learned every detail about her. Then, madam, the second possibility. This Yunma is indeed President Yi's daughter and isn't being impersonated by Worryless Nie, Auntie Chiao continued. I don't believe there could actually be such similar-looking people in this world. Isn't that too coincidental? Yuan snorted. Yuan turned to Auntie Chiao and asked, Auntie Chiao, how's your progress on the matter I had you investigate? Madam, I was actually about to inform you that there was indeed someone named Yunma overseas, and we investigated the prestigious school she attended. We also found Yunma's classmate and had her classmate look at the photo we took at the banquet. Annie Chiao replied calmly. Oh, Yuan's eyes flashed. And the results? Madam, the result was that Yunma's classmate recognized her immediately after seeing the photo and confirmed that the person in the photo we took was Yunma herself indeed. From the information we obtained, Yunma appears to have been very domineering at school, and her current personality is very similar too. After listening to Annie Chiao's report, confusion surfaced on Yuan's face. How could that be possible? Could Yunma and Worryless Nie really be two different people? However, if they were really two different people, why did they look so similar? Annie Chiao, take a trip to Yunma's residence and invite her over. I'd like to see whether she's a real princess or a Cinderella. Yuan's eyes glinted coldly. At the residence Ling Jun arranged for Yuan, Yu Wanwan was lying in bed and scrolling through her phone. Mississippi. Housekeeper Wu's voice came from outside the door. Enter, Yu Wanwan called out. Housekeeper Wu entered the room. What is it? Yu Wanwan asked the other woman. Miss, Housekeeper Chow from the Een family is here to see you. Will you see her? Housekeeper Wu inquired. Housekeeper Chow. Yu Wanwan was perplexed. Miss, Housekeeper Chow is Een Yueron's confidant and holds some reputation in Tianshui City. She isn't someone insignificant, Housekeeper Wu explained. Chapter 2337. Probing, I see. Yi Wanwan's lips curled up when she learned Housekeeper Chow's identity. She had been running around with Yi Lingjun and attending all kinds of seminars these last few days. It appeared Een Yuerong had turned antsy. All right, let her enter, Yi Wanwan said. A moment later, Housekeeper Wu led a well-dressed, middle-aged woman into the room. Hello, Miss Yi. It's an honor to see you again. Auntie Xiao greeted her with a faint smile after a few scrutinizing glances. It was Een Yuerong, Director Een, who sent you here? Yi Wanwan glanced at Housekeeper Xiao and recognized her as the person who brought women to see him that night. Indeed, Miss Yi. Housekeeper Xiao nodded. State your purpose, Yi Wanwan aloofly said. Miss Yi, my madam wants to invite you to visit the Een residence. Do you have a time, Miss Yi? Auntie Xiao said. I don't, Yi Wanwan replied. Auntie Xiao's expression turned embarrassed. Wasn't this type of personality too unapproachable? In her mind, the most unapproachable person she had ever met in her lifetime was Een Yuerong. But when compared to this person before her, Een Yuerong didn't hold a candle to her. She had seen all kinds of people, but this Yunma couldn't simply be considered unapproachable. She wouldn't give you an opportunity to approach or interact with her. People like her were typically haughty and condescending to their bones, considering every person and matter beneath them. For example, Een Yuerong was at least obsessive, which was a type of attitude, but a Yunma didn't even have anything that could be considered an attitude, which was most frightening. Miss Yi Wanwan frowned deeply when Auntie Xiao was about to speak, a cold glint surfacing in her eyes. I thought I clearly told you just now that I didn't have time. She then looked at Housekeeper Wu. Housekeeper Wu. Housekeeper Wu expressionlessly said to Auntie Xiao. Housekeeper Xiao, please don't make things difficult for this servant. If Director Een wants to see my miss, please trouble her and ask her to come here herself. She doesn't need to come here, Yi Wanwan interjected coldly. Housekeeper Xiao, I think my miss has clearly expressed herself. This way, please, Housekeeper Wu said. All right, I've disturbed you today. Please pardon me, Miss. Auntie Xiao then followed Housekeeper Wu out of the room. At the Een residence. After Een Yuerong heard Auntie Xiao retell her visit, her expression turned extremely unsightly. She's seriously viewing herself like a princess. She wants to make me visit her personally? Een Yuerong glowered with a snort. There wasn't anyone who dared to treat her with this kind of attitude in the 12 independent states. Madam, what a Yunma meant is that she wouldn't have time to see you even if you personally visited her, Auntie Xiao responded helplessly. Een Yuerong snorted. Interesting. Very interesting. Madam, there's something I don't know whether I should say or not, Auntie Xiao said hesitantly. What can't be said between us? Speak, Een Yuerong ordered. Madam, based on my observations today and the information we obtained from Yunma's school, it's improbable that this Yunma is being impersonated by worryless Nye, Auntie Xiao said. So what you're saying is that she's indeed President Yi's daughter, Yunma? Een Yuerong's brows locked together. I personally think it's close to the mark. This Yunma is haughty and prideful to the bones and extremely condescending and difficult to talk to. She doesn't give other people any opportunities to interact with her. However, there's a potential method we could use to invite her here, Auntie Xiao said. Chapter 2338. Going according to her plan? What's the method? Een Yuerong asked. The information I obtained is that Yunma appears to be interested in eldest young master. That night, she directly kicked out the 2 women I brought over and declared that she wouldn't permit me to bring anyone over again. Her interest is very evident already. Later, she publicly dropped eldest young master off at a meeting. If Madam uses eldest young master as an excuse to invite her here, we might have a better chance, Annie Chiao said. Heh, interested in Agio? Yin Yuerong's lips curled into a bone-chilling smile. That makes her more suspicious, doesn't it? Madam, not necessarily. Annie Chiao shook her head. Women with a personality like hers are haughty and arrogant to their cores, so they're actually more easily attracted to people with eldest young master's personality like a magnet. Furthermore, all the evidence clearly indicates that worryless Nye and Yunma are two different people. The people we sent to Yun City yesterday have returned already, and they said worryless Nye is indeed still in Yun City right now and is currently fretting over Third Elder's matter. Did they see worryless Nye in the flesh? Yin Yuerong asked. No. Annie Chiao shook her head. However, the spies I placed in the Fearless Alliance said worryless Nye summoned several urgent meetings with the higher-ups these past few days. So there most likely isn't a mistake. My statement still holds true. We'll be able to see whether she's a true princess or a Cinderella after one visit to the Yin residence, Yin Yuerong said mockingly. Early the next morning, Yuan had just woken up when she received a call from Si Yin. Baby, did you miss me? Yuan greeted him cheerily. My mother sought me out yesterday. Si Yin was frank. Oh, what did she say? Yuan asked curiously. She wanted me to invite you to the Yin residence, Si Yin answered. So you refused her? Yuan was pensive. I agreed, Si Yin replied. Yuan was dumbfounded. Agreed? Seriously? My mother is very suspicious about your identity, so there were probably two objectives for making me invite you, Si Yin said. First of all, she wants to test my attitude. If I refused, her suspicion definitely wouldn't be eliminated. Yuan was aware of this as well, because the true Yunma wouldn't be in any danger if she went to the Yin residence. However, if a fake Yunma visited the Yin residence, her life would be in danger. If Si Yin rejected, Yin Yuerong would probably just employ more extreme methods. Ah, baby, you're too smart, Yuan once said. Don't praise me so fast. Si Yin interrupted her exasperatedly. Second of all, my mother wants you to visit the Yin residence to ascertain your identity. At the very least, she did this because she can't determine whether you're truly Yunma or an imposter. Yuan nodded. I know, although I agreed. You don't need to go anywhere. I'll handle everything regarding my mother, including Third Elder. I'll think of a way to rescue him, Si Yin said. After hanging up, Yuan smiled faintly. She naturally had to go to the Yin residence eventually. Everything was still going according to her plan. If Yin Yuerong wanted to test her, her only option was to use Third Elder. She didn't have any other methods. Miss, Housekeeper Chiao is here again. Housekeeper Wu's voice came from outside the door. All right, tell her to wait for me. I'll personally pay a visit to Director Yin Yuerong this time, Yuan once said. Chapter 2339. You honored us with your presence, although Housekeeper Wu didn't understand why Miss suddenly agreed to visit Yin Yuerong's residence. She merely nodded and didn't say anything. After Yuan got ready and changed into a dress with her long hair loosely draped behind her, she strode out of her bedroom. Hello, Missy. Annie Chiao walked forward as soon as she saw Yuan. Yuan glanced at Annie Chiao and nodded in response. Miss, do you need me to accompany you? Housekeeper Wu asked Yuan from behind. No need. I'll go by myself, Yuan replied. All right. Call me if you need anything, Mississippi. Housekeeper Wu then watched Yuan boarding the Yin family's car. At the Yin residence. This was Yuan's first time visiting the Yin residence, but for some reason, the atmosphere here felt very repressive and made it difficult to breathe. Miss Nya, this way, please. Annie Chiao's eyes turned as she spoke to Yuan with a smile. Yuan was about to instinctively reply, but sensed something was off as the words reached her lips, and she halted in time. What did you just call me? Nya? Yuan looked at Annie Chiao. No. You might have misheard me, Missy. I meant this way, please, Missy, Auntie Chiao said hastily. Yuan didn't say anything and followed Annie Chiao toward the house. After Annie Chiao addressed her as Miss Nya, Yu Wanwan grew more certain that In Yuerong's suspicion toward her definitely hadn't dissipated. It appeared she needed to exercise more vigilance and absolutely couldn't allow herself to be tricked. Director, In is quite the attitude. Yu Wanwan suddenly snorted. Annie Chiao was startled. Missy, why do you say that? What? First, Director In didn't personally visit my residence to invite me over. Now that I'm at the In residence, Director In Yuerong won't even come out to receive me, Yu Wanwan replied. Apologies, Miss E. The past few days, Director In hasn't been feeling well. Please excuse her and don't take offense, Annie Chiao hastily explained. In Annie Chiao's mind, the identity of this daughter of the Arbitration Council's president was nearly certain, so she didn't dare to slight her in any manner. Moments later, Auntie Chiao led Yu Wanwan inside the house. In Yuerong was expressionlessly sitting on the sofa. When she saw Yu Wanwan, she slowly stood up, a faintly discernible smile on her lips. Miss E, you honored us with your presence. Pardon me for not going out to meet you. Yu Wanwan ignored In Yuerong and directly sat on the chief seat. Oh, so it appears Director In has some self-awareness. Since you know you were remiss in not coming out to meet me, why didn't you come out? Yu Wanwan glanced at the other woman. Iciness surfaced in Yuerong's eyes, and a chilly smile hung on her lips. Housekeeper Chow must have told Missy, right? I haven't been feeling well recently, so I can't catch a chill. Please don't take offense, Miss C. You can't catch a chill. Yu Wanwan's gaze landed on In Yuerong. Since Director In can't catch a chill, you should recuperate at home properly and shouldn't seek me out for no reason. I'm healthy and still have business to attend to. Yu Wanwan didn't give In Yuerong an opportunity to answer before asking, Where's Director C? Agio isn't back yet, In Yuerong nonchalantly replied. Isn't back yet? Yu Wanwan's expression chilled instantly. A single glance, and that was enough to drop people into an ice cave. Are you kidding? I came here for Director C. Since Director C isn't back yet, I don't have time to waste with you. Yu Wanwan then stood up and made a leave. Chapter 2340. The two of them have an illegitimate son together. Miss Wanwan, hold on. I think you should be interested to hear about some matters regarding Agio, right? In Yuerong called out when she saw Yu Wanwan about to leave. All right, tell me. No matter what, you're Director C's mother, correct? The corner of Yu Wanwan's lips turned up. Miss E, there's no rush. I heard earlier that Miss E plans to start working in the Arbitration Council, so there are some work matters I'd like to discuss with Missy right now, In Yuerong said. Director In, I still haven't entered the Arbitration Council yet, so if you want to discuss work-related matters, I suggest you make an appointment with my father. It'd be more appropriate for you to visit my father, Yu Wanwan responded. In Yuerong smiled. It's not a discussion, per SC. I merely wanted to give you some suggestions, Miss C, and I also think you'd be interested in knowing about this. In Yuerong didn't give Yu Wanwan a chance to say anything and continued. Several nights ago, the third elder of a faction from Yin City called the Fearless Alliance was following me and was captured. He's currently imprisoned at this residence. After saying that, In Yuerong secretly observed every shift in Yu Wanwan's emotions. This should be a private matter of Director Yin's and is unrelated to the Arbitration Council, right? Yu Wanwan asked. Indeed, it's unrelated to the Arbitration Council, but it's related to Agio, In Yuerong said. At the mention of Agio, Yu Wanwan immediately became intrigued. Do tell, Director In. Missy, you haven't known Agio for a long time, so you don't know him well. Do you know that the president of the group, Fearless Alliance, happens to be Agio's love, and the two of them have an illegitimate son together? In Yuerong asked. Lover. Yu Wanwan looked pensively at In Yuerong. It appears Director C has quite a romantic history. However, I'm rather curious as to why you're telling me this, Director In. In Yuerong imperceptibly surveyed Yu Wanwan. She found it a bit difficult to see through this woman in front of her. Miss E, what I'm saying is that the elderly man I captured is a member of Agio's lover's faction. He was most likely following me to scout for information since I strongly oppose Ajo's relationship with that woman. It was a rather desperate method now that I think about it. Inuerong flashed a fake smile at her. Heh, with Director C's qualities, having admirers and even several lovers is very normal. Director C is your son, not my son. So what's the meaning of saying all this to me? Yi Wanwan retorted with a snort. Oh, Missy doesn't care? Inuerong asked. Why should I care? Yi Wanwan's lips turned up. If a person doesn't even have any history, how is he outstanding? The more history he has, the more attractive and outstanding he is, right? Yi Wanwan asked. Inuerong's lips twitched. The extent of this woman's open-mindedness in regards to romantic affairs was truly an eye-opener for her. Furthermore, Yi Wanwan managed to tactfully avoid Third Elder's matter, so Inuerong didn't know how to continue. Also, Director Een, I do hold some interest in your son, but remember, it's just some interest. I will have the greatest tolerance for anything I like, whether it's a person, item, or even an animal. I also won't care about their past. Of course, once I lose interest in this person, I will destroy him, including everything around him, Yi Wanwan said with a faint smile. Chapter 2341. You vicious woman, including everything around him, for example. Inuerong asked aloofly. For example, you, Director Een, Yi Wanwan replied nonchalantly. On the side, Auntie Chow couldn't help but wipe away her sweat as she watched the secret exchange of blows between Inuerong and Yi Wanwan. Iyunma absolutely wasn't a person who was easy to fool. Madame previously used the excuse of feeling unwell to make an opening gambit, and Iyunma started retaliating promptly. Moreover, Iyunma's retaliation was simple and rough, without any beating around the bush. She was truly a character who was arrogant and conceited to her very core. What was most important was that as President Yi's precious daughter, Iyunma did indeed have this right. An inscrutable smile hung on Inuerong's lips. She didn't say anything and merely turned to Auntie Chow. Auntie Chow, bring him here. Yes, madam. Auntie Chow nodded and retreated quickly. After Auntie Chow left, Inuerong scrutinized Yi Wanwan and meaningfully said, I heard that you were living abroad previously, Missy. I imagine your school life abroad should have been very plentiful, right? Yi Wanwan glanced at Inuerong. What? Director Een is very interested in my private life? Not exactly. After all, you're the president's daughter, Miss E, and will enter the arbitration council in the future and will become colleagues, so it wouldn't be bad to get to know you more now. What do you think, Miss E? Inuerong said. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, Auntie Chow had returned already, and several young men from the Een family were following her and carting an elderly man. The elderly man looked extremely battered and exhausted. His clothes had turned to rags and were shockingly stained with blood. Yi Wanwan involuntarily furrowed her brows when she saw the elderly man. Inuerong actually brought Third Elder to her. The elderly man originally looked like he would rather die than submit, but his expression changed after seeing Yi Wanwan. Why was the president in the Een residence? Furthermore, wasn't her style of dress way too different from her typical style? Even he almost didn't recognize her. Third Elder quickly looked away from Yi Wanwan. He didn't know what had happened. As people said, you lost more the more you spoke, so he simply remained quiet. Third Elder from the Fearless Alliance, your president is here to save you, Inuerong suddenly said to Third Elder with an eerie smile hanging from her lips. Third Elder furrowed his brows. What trick was this woman playing? Could the president have finished negotiating with Inuerong? However, for some reason, Third Elder had a persistent feeling that something was amiss. Inuerong wanted nothing more than to shred the president to pieces, so how could she get along with the president so pleasantly? Moreover, the president was dressed differently than usual, and her aura, especially, had undergone a drastic transformation. What was most vital was that the president merely glanced at him one time from the time he entered the room till now. If it was really as Inuerong said, and the president came to save him, the president's attitude was a giant problem. Third Elder closed his eyes in thought and made himself calm down to mull over what trick they were playing right now. A moment later, Third Elder appeared to have recalled something, and his eyes shot open, angrily glaring at Inyuro. I understand, you vicious woman. Chapter 2342. What act was he pulling? Inyuerong was startled. Forget about Inyuerong, but Yuanwan herself was astonished. What act was Third Elder pulling? Tell me, what's your intention behind making this woman get plastic surgery and transform to look like our president? Do you want her to seduce your son, Si Yihin? Or do you hold some ulterior motives toward the Fearless Alliance? Third Elder demanded fiercely. Yuanwan, I'm telling you, how you want to treat your son is unrelated to the Fearless Alliance. But if you want to use this woman to scheme against the Fearless Alliance, you're delusional. A person may draw a tiger in so far as its skin, but it's hard to draw its bones. No matter how much this woman resembles our president, I can see through her with a single look. If she wants to impersonate our president, she should start imitating her from the demeanor. Third Elder continued to yell. Director Ian, just what game are you playing with me? What? Did you invite me here to use me as entertainment? Yuanwan coldly questioned. Missy, this man is an elder from the Fearless Alliance. I didn't expect him to dare to offend you, Missy. How do you think I should punish him? Keep him and torture him, or give him a quick end? Of course, I don't care about someone like him. So it'd also be doable if we allowed him to go back to warn President Fearless to stay far away from Agio from now on. What do you think, Missy? Inyuerong asked Yuanwan with a smile. Third Elder was dumbfounded. He thought Inyuerong randomly found a woman and made her look like the president with plastic surgery so that she could help this woman achieve some kind of goal. Now, though, judging from their conversation, it didn't seem that way. Just what in the world was happening? He felt like his brain wasn't big enough for this. Inyuerong, this is your family matter. How you want to handle it? What does that have to do with Iyunma? Yuanwan asked expressionlessly. That's not the case. Inyuerong shook her head and stared at Yuanwan. President Fearless from Yun City is unwilling to give up her wicked intentions toward Agio. If Miss E is interested in Agio, I naturally have to help Miss E resolve this issue. It'd be an effortless victory to release this elderly man and allow him to go back and warn President Fearless. If President Fearless learns that you've taken a fancy to Agio, I believe she'd have some fear and perhaps she'd give up just like that. Wouldn't everyone be happy in that case? So it's like that. Yuanwan casually sat down on the sofa with a showy posture. Inyuerong, you might have misunderstood something. Yuanwan smiled mockingly. What I like the most are challenges. If something isn't challenging, then I might lose interest in conquering it. I don't think it's necessary to warn me. So, Missy, what you're saying is, since this person offended a director of the Arbitration Council, it'd be a disgrace to the Arbitration Council if we released him just like that. As for whether you want to kill him or keep him to slowly torture him, that's your personal business, Inyuerong. I don't have the time to make a decision for you. Yuanwan replied casually. I see. Then I'll kill him, Inyuerong said. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for me to hone your knife for you? Yuanwan was uncaring. Inyuerong frowned when she saw Yuanwan's attitude. This woman was utterly unconcerned about the life or death of the Fearless Alliance's Third Elder. However, based on what she knew, worryless Nia wouldn't behave like this. Chapter 2343. What a good hand of hatred drawing. Annie Chiao. Take care of him, Inyuerong ordered. Annie Chiao nodded and pulled out a dagger, striding toward Third Elder. When Third Elder saw the incredibly sharp and coldly glint dagger, he shivered involuntarily. They seriously wanted his life. Elder of the Fearless Alliance, don't blame me for this. If you want to blame someone, blame your president. It was her who killed you and personally shoved you into the fire pit, Auntie Chiao said to Third Elder apathetically. Third Elder snorted. Why are you wasting your words? What haven't I experienced in my long life? Kill me already. From the side, Yin Yuerong secretly peered at Yuan. However, Yuan was sitting on the sofa without a ripple in her face, as though this matter didn't concern her. She had the attitude of a spectator. At this moment, Yuan was incredibly nervous. This woman wasn't serious, right? Earlier, Agio had interfered in this matter and guaranteed to her that absolutely nothing fatal would happen to Third Elder. The current situation didn't appear to correspond with Agio's promise, though. It was starting to get out of control. Yin Yuerong was a lunatic and would do anything. Ignoring Agio's threat and killing Third Elder was something she could do. Yuan appeared nonchalant and calm, but inside, her guard was amped to the max. If Third Elder's life was really at risk, she had to save Third Elder no matter what, even if it meant losing her disguise. Even if it would affect Lingjuan's reputation, she couldn't sit back and allow something bad to happen to Third Elder in front of her. Swish! A second later, the dagger in Annie Qiao's hand fiercely pierced toward Third Elder's neck. Yuan's heart was elevated to her throat. Yin Yuerong was serious. She wanted to kill Third Elder. However, before Yuan could act, Yin Yuerong suddenly spoke. Pause. Annie Qiao retracted her hand instantly. Third Elder was deathly pale. He had seriously walked past the gates to the underworld just now. It scared him to death. What is it? I was just getting into the show. So why did you stop, Director Yin? Yuan glanced at Yin Yuerong. Yin Yuerong smiled faintly. I suddenly thought it'd be a waste to kill him just like this. It's better to keep him and slowly torture him. Moreover, you came here as a guest, so it'd be rather improper to kill someone in front of you, Missy. Before Yuan could say anything, Yin Yuerong turned to Annie Qiao. Annie Qiao, take him away. Don't let him stay here and dirty Miss Yi's eyes. Understood, madam. Annie Qiao nodded and immediately had the young men carry Third Elder away from the living room again. Yin Yuerong, you pervert. Just wait. Our president won't spare you. She'll definitely make sure you won't have a burial place when you die and chop you into pieces and feed you to virus. Just wait. I can't wait to see how you'll die. Third Elder's screams were unceasing. Yuan's lip twitched. Did he have to draw hatred for her like this? She never said she wanted to chop Yin Yuerong into pieces, right? This was Agio's real mother after all. What if Agio's relationship with his mother improved later? Would she lose this last path of retreat? Although she might be in a tit-for-tat struggle with Yin Yuerong right now, it was as Yunma, not worryless Nya. Chapter 2344. Miscalculated one thing. I've embarrassed myself. Missy, Yin Yuerong said with a cordial smile. If Director Yin doesn't need anything else, I'll be leaving now. Yuan then stood up, preparing to leave. Yin Yuerong called out, Miss E, it's still early, so there's no need to rush. Actually, I asked Miss E to come today regarding one more matter. Yuan paused and glanced back at Yin Yuerong. May I ask what else you have to say, Director Yin? I know that Missy studied at MDFF Academy. Coincidentally, I also have another guest here who studied at MDFF Academy. Everyone in MDFF Academy must know a famous figure like Miss E. She greatly admires you, Miss E. So how about you see each other since you're here, Miss E? Yin Yuerong proposed. Oh, Yuan indifferently looked at Yin Yuerong. But I'm not that interested. Yin Yuerong didn't allow Yuan to say anything more and gave Annie Qiao a look. Annie Qiao understood and left. Within a minute, a fashionably dressed young woman followed Annie Qiao inside. Director Yin, the girl greeted Yin Yuerong. Li Yuerong, you studied at MDFF Academy, so you should know the daughter of our Independent State Arbitration Council's president, Yunma, right? Yin Yuerong asked the girl. The girl, Li Yuerong, nodded. Director Yin, Senior Yunma is famous at MDFF Academy, so of course I know her. I've even seen her several times. That's great. Coincidentally, Missy Yunma was visiting me today, and you're considered Miss Yi's junior, so let's share a meal together, Yunma said. Senior Yunma? The girl's expression changed. She asked, but Director Yin, Where's Senior Iyunma? Why don't I see her? Don't see her. Inueron glanced at Yuanwan. Don't tell me you don't see a giant living person. Her. The girl was surprised. Director Ian, I've never met this woman before. Are you saying she's Senior Iyunma? Oh, she isn't? Inueron asked. The girl vehemently shook her head. Of course she isn't Senior Iyunma, Director Ian. Senior Iyunma might not know me, but I know her. I've never seen this woman before, so she definitely isn't Senior Iyunma. Are you sure? Inueron looked suspicious. Yes, Director. I'm certain she absolutely isn't Iyunma. The girl looked certain. Yi Wanwan's lip curled up with an inexplicable smile. It appeared Inueron still wasn't willing to give up and prepared this final move to test her. It had to be said that Inueron was immensely prudent and had prepared many backup plans. Unfortunately, this whole time, Inueron miscalculated one thing. Inueron merely thought she was impersonating Iyunma by taking over Iyunma's identity and deceiving Ilingjun. Inueron had no idea that a person by the name of Iyunma didn't exist in this world. Some time ago, people from the Ian family went to MDFF Academy to investigate Iyunma's identity. But who was Ilingjun? His reach stretched to every corner of the world, and he'd already created an identity for her at MDFF Academy. So Inueron definitely didn't find anything. Hence, she couldn't have found a student from MDFF Academy to test her. Chapter 2345, Play a good game with you. In other words, this girl wasn't a student from MDFF Academy. She was just someone Inueron was using to test her attitude. If she was really impersonating Iyunma and ran into a student from MDFF Academy, and this student claimed she didn't know her, a flaw would be exposed regardless of how good her acting skills were. Inueron had made the wrong move. From start to end, Inueron only had one opportunity to test her, and that was to kill Third Elder. Unfortunately, Inueron missed that opportunity. Could it be she didn't attack due to qualms regarding Siyin? When Yuanwan heard this girl who claimed to be a student from MDFF Academy saying she knew Iyunma and met Iyunma at MDFF Academy before, Yuanwan nearly laughed out loud. Foolish child, there wasn't any Iyunma. Everything was an illusion. Inueron stared at Yi Wanwan in amusement. Don't you think it's strange, Miss C? Why doesn't your junior at MDFF Academy recognize you? Isn't this very interesting? When Inueron finished speaking, countless guards of the Ian family rushed into the room, making it impenetrable. Yi Wanwan looked at the guards, but didn't say anything. Should I be calling you Miss E, or should I perhaps call you Miss Nya? When Yi Wanwan didn't speak, Inueron asked with a mocking smile. The next second, Yi Wanwan gracefully stood up from the sofa. An inscrutable smile was on her face as she ignored the guard around her and slowly walked toward Inueron. Yi Wanwan stopped in front of Inueron. What? Director Ian likes to change people's surnames? Inueron wanted to say something, but was cut off by a wave of Yi Wanwan's hand. Yi Wanwan's smile receded and frost covered her face. With a bone-chilling voice, she spat out. Inueron, what game are you playing? Why don't you show your hand and lay it out on the table so that I can play a good game with you? Inueron furrowed her brows. Inueron, I accepted your invitation out of consideration for Siyin today, and I will make allowances for you because you're Siyin's mother. Yi Wanwan acted like an almighty superior. I will say one last thing to you. You absolutely shouldn't be ungrateful for the face I'm showing you. Yi Wanwan then slid past Inueron, brushing against her shoulder, and she uttered to the countless number of Ian guards, "Scram." The guard captain glanced at Inueron before surveying Yi Wanwan for a moment and tactfully yielding a path. Inueron's expression was so dark that ink could drip, but she quickly donned a smiling expression. Missy, I think this is all a misunderstanding. I don't care whether this is a misunderstanding or not. Remember one thing, Inueron, the only thing I currently care about is your son. That's all. Then Yi Wanwan sauntered out without looking back. I'm uninterested in knowing if this is a misunderstanding or what your objective is. This will be the only time. If you continue to affront me, you'll be responsible for the consequences. As Auntie Chow watched Yi Wan leave the Yin residence, her expression turned anxious. Madam really went too far in her testing this time. After all, that woman wasn't some simple character. After Yi Wan left, a bone-chilling smile pervaded Yin Yuerong's face. If it wasn't for her father, Yun Ma would be a corpse already. Auntie Chow made all the Yin guards withdraw before saying, I have to say that Yun Ma is indeed too arrogant, madam. Even President, he wouldn't use this attitude with you, madam. Chapter 2346. The next step when Yin Yuerong heard that, an unconcerned smile appeared on her exquisite face. I don't care about her attitude. Do you think we can determine Yun Ma's identity now, madam? Auntie Chow asked. Most likely. Yin Yuerong nodded after a moment of thought. If this Yun Ma was truly being impersonated by worryless Nye, she wouldn't have been so calm today without exposing even a trace of emotion. Madam, is my mission completed then? The girl pretending to be a student from NDFF Academy asked as she faced Yin Yuerong. Amen, you can leave. Yin Yuerong waved her hand. Make her disappear permanently. Huh? The girl's expression changed. Auntie Chow clapped her hands and summoned a guard to drag the ashen-faced girl outside. Madam, what's the next step? Auntie Chow asked Yin Yuerong. Yin Yuerong's lips lifted with a confident smile. The balance of power within the Arbitration Council is probably about to change. What do you mean, madam? Auntie Chow was surprised. Vice President Qin, Yin Yuerong replied. Are you saying Vice President Qin will act, madam? Auntie Chow was pensive. Yin Yuerong calmly sat on the sofa like an elegant and poised wealthy woman. Everyone originally thought the next president of the Arbitration Council would definitely be Vice President Qin, but now it's hard to say, Yin Yuerong said with a smile. Auntie Chow nodded. In truth, even if Yin Yuerong hadn't explained, Auntie Chow was somewhat familiar with the Arbitration Council's current situation. In the past few years, Vice President Qin had been involved in activities that exceeded his prerogative. If he was exposed, the consequences would be inconceivable. Logically speaking, Vice President Qin's guts wouldn't be so big since he still had President Yi above him. However, Vice President Qin also thought he'd definitely become the next president of the Arbitration Council after President Yi Lingjuan's term ended, so that gave him the courage. Now, though, Yun Ma came bursting out from nowhere and cut the ground from under Vice President Qin's feet. From Yun Ma's appearance at the banquet that night to Yi Lingjun announcing her as his daughter in a high-profile manner and declaring his daughter would start working in the Arbitration Council, every sensible person knew that Yi Lingjun wanted to have his daughter, Yun Ma, become his successor. Although the position of president was voted on and elected by everyone, the prestige of the Yi clan and Yi Lingjun were truly too gargantuan in the 12 independent states. If Yi Lingjun was willing, the other directors definitely wouldn't vote for Vice President Qin and would vote for Yun Ma instead. This way, not only would Vice President Qin be unable to fulfill his dream of becoming the president of the Arbitration Council, but it was also very likely Yun Ma would discover the shady dealings he conducted privately after she became the president. Madam, what do you think Vice President Qin is planning to do? Auntie Chow asked curiously. I don't know anything about Vice President Qin's plan. Yin Yuerong smiled faintly. But if I were Vice President Qin, I would take a gamble and eliminate Yun Ma before anything became certain. Then, Auntie Chow was hesitant. Then, madam, our position now is we aren't connected to Vice President Qin in any manner. You don't need to take Yin Heng into consideration, Yin Yuerong said. Madam, then do we need to remind Yun Ma or perhaps lend her a hand? Auntie Chow asked after a moment of thought. Chapter 2347. It's about to start raining, no need. Yin Yuerong sounded resolute and decisive. I'd like to see just how capable Yun Ma is. If she can't even overcome the obstacle of Vice President Qin, and she becomes the president of the Arbitration Council and gets together with Agio in the future, who knows what mayhem she'd get herself into. At that time, even the Yin family might be impacted. "You're brilliant, madam," Andy Chiao praised her with a smile. After leaving the Yin estate and returning to her residence, Yuan Wan was still shaken. Yuan Wan never expected Yin Yuerong to have so many tricks up her sleeve, nearly causing her to shed her disguise. She still greatly underestimated Yin Yuerong. After all, that woman was Agio's mother, so how could she be a normal woman? Yuan Wan still didn't know Yin Yuerong well. Although First Elder had scouted for some information regarding Yin Yuerong, it wasn't comprehensive. She still had to think of a method to understand Yin Yuerong better, or else one day, she would be tricked by Yin Yuerong and still be clueless. That night, after Yuan Wan and Yi Lingjun ate dinner together, she pulled a vanishing act with Yi Lingjun's assistance and made a trip back to Yin City. She recovered her identity as Worryless Nya and intentionally appeared at the Fearless Alliance in a flashy manner. She also returned to the Nya residence many times and visited her parents while she was at it. If Yin Yuerong's scouts saw Worryless Nya with their own eyes, it should completely dissipate Yin Yuerong's suspicion toward Yunma, who was far away in Tianshui City. No matter what, Yi Lingjun had helped her like this, so she couldn't easily expose herself and negatively affect Yi Lingjun's reputation, right? Especially since Vice President Qin might appear normal on the surface, but in reality, he was eyeing them covetously already. The only pitiful part about her trip to Yin City was that Tang Tang went to Yishuan's place, so she didn't see him. Since her time in Yin City was limited, she didn't linger. Several days later in the Qin residence at Tianshui City, Yin Heng glanced at the deeply glowering Qin Shiyuan and asked, Yuan, has something been on your mind recently? Qin Shiyuan's eyes icily glinted. What do you think? Let me guess. It's a Yunma, right? Yin Heng asked. Why did you ask if you knew? Qin Shiyuan snorted. Yunma relies on the fact that she's the president's daughter and goes about with her nose in the air. She has zero regard for my father and me. I heard that she even berated director Yin in front of everyone. Yin Heng shook his head and sighed. It can't be helped. Yunma is President Yi Lingjun's precious daughter, so she's been fated to stand high above the masses since she was born. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Orc. Even so, I'll strike her down from the clouds and slam her into the depths of an abyss with my own hands. She'll never be reincarnated. Ever since Yunma appeared, all of her brilliance and splendor was stolen by that woman. Even Si Yihin, whom she secretly admired, was successfully tackled by that bitch. What right did that woman have? Something she couldn't obtain was easily stolen by that woman. Qin Shiyuan absolutely couldn't tolerate the existence of someone like that. Yuan, you mustn't be impulsive. Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan with a deep frown. You have to know that Yunma is President Yi's daughter. If anything happened to her, even the weather would change over Tianshui City. The weather would change? Qin Shiyuan snorted. I want the sky to start raining. Yin Heng wanted to say something, but ended up stopping himself. Late at night, Qin Shiyuan went to Vice President Qin's study. Father, do you agree to what I said or not? Qin Shiyuan asked, looking at Vice President Qin. Chapter 2348. This risk was worth taking. What if I say no? Vice President Qin asked. If you say no, then I'd stop, but I won't spare her, Qin Shiyuan said while glowering. Go ahead then, Vice President Qin said a moment later. Joy overfilled Qin Shiyuan's face. Father, you're agreeing? Vice President Qin was quiet for another minute before looking at Qin Shiyuan. Remember, you mustn't allow anyone to gain leverage against you while doing this. You should think carefully about who you should ask to do it. I understand, Father. Qin Shiyuan nodded. After Qin Shiyuan left the study, Vice President Qin's expression chilled instantly. Yunma must disappear permanently. Even if Yunma died and the president found him the most likely suspect, no one could do anything to him as long as there wasn't proof. At that time, The directors he bribed would cast their votes for the next president for him. If Yunma didn't die, the position of president would definitely fall into Yunma's hands next term. At that time, if Yunma discovered those shady dealings of his, this risk was worth taking. The next morning, Qin Shiyuan called Yin Heng to her room. Yin Heng, there's something I need you to do. Can you do it? Qin Shiyuan softly asked as she half leaned into Yin Heng's arms. Yin Heng embraced her with a smile. Yuan, I traverse through a mountain of swords and a sea of infernos. Eliminate Yunma, Qin Shiyuan said. Yin Heng froze, his expression changing drastically. I didn't mishear, right? She wants me to eliminate Yunma. This was harder than traversing through a mountain of swords and a sea of infernos. Yuan. Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan. Yunma is the president's daughter. If anything happens to Yunma, the biggest suspects will be the Qin family and Vice President Qin. This is kindling a fire on yourself. It's no trifling matter. What? Didn't you say you traverse through a mountain of swords and a sea of infernos? You're scared this easily? Qin Shiyuan snorted. I'm not scared. I just think doing this isn't worth it. Yin Heng shook his head. Yin Heng, you're a smart person, so you should know what would happen if Yunma doesn't die without me telling you, Qin Shiyuan said. Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan with confusion. Yuan, what do you mean? Heh, Yin Heng, it appears I've overestimated you, and you aren't as clever as I thought you were. No wonder you've always been beneath Si Yihan. Even though Si Yihan left for many years, he's still someone you could never surpass. Qin Shiyuan glanced at Yin Heng. At the mention of Si Yihan, a dark cloud appeared in Yin Heng's eyes. If Yunma doesn't die, the position of the Arbitration Council president next term would definitely belong to Yunma. And you should have heard that Yunma is entangled with Si Yihan now. If we allowed Yunma to become the president of the Arbitration Council, have you thought about what would happen to Si Yihan's position? Qin Shiyuan asked mockingly. This, Yin Heng frowned deeply. Moreover, I believe that with Yunma's status, Director Yin would enthusiastically push the two of them together. Your existence would become absolutely worthless to every person, Qin Shiyuan added. In truth, Qin Shiyuan was well aware of what this man before her cared about and wanted to obtain. She had him completely within her grasp. Yin Heng also knew what Qin Shiyuan was saying, but the risk of killing Yunma was truly too great. So great that a minuscule error couldn't be permitted, or else he'd be beyond redemption. Chapter 23:49. Ninth brother isn't managing you? Qin Shiyuan added. Of course, if you're unwilling, that's fine too. After all, my father will still remain as vice president while you, Yin Heng, will completely lose everything and become penniless. Think about it. Then Qin Shiyuan turned to leave. Yuan, tell me, how do we eliminate Yunma? What detailed plan do you have? Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan. The corners of Qin Shiyuan's mouth turned up, and she immediately turned around and leaned into Yin Heng's arms again. It's very simple. Actually, you should know about the mercenary troupe, Fengsha, right? Qin Shiyuan asked with a smile. Of course I do. They're the most mysterious mercenary group in the 12 independent states. Yin Heng nodded. I heard you know the head of Fengsha. Qin Shiyuan stared at Yin Heng. That's right, Yin Heng said. I do know him, but we aren't close friends. That's good. The mercenary organization, Fengsha, is very principled. You can contact the leader of Fengsha and have him personally take care of Yunma. As for the price, you don't need to worry about that. I'll pay whatever he wants, Qin Shiyuan said. The mercenary group Fengsha isn't easy to hire. I'll try my best, but I doubt the price they want will be cheap. Yin Heng was contemplative. Go and try. Qin Shiyuan smiled faintly, then took advantage of Yin Heng's inattention and pressed a light kiss on his lips. Qin Shiyuan sneered inwardly. Whether Yunma died or didn't die, the matter couldn't be traced back to the Qin family. The one who hired Fengsha mercenary group would be Yin Heng, so that'd be the Yin family's business. Even if Ian Hung was discovered in the end and relentlessly latched onto the Chin family, no one could do anything to the Chin family as long as they didn't admit it. That night, Yuan secretly avoided Si Yihan and called Lin Kei to meet with her. In the luxurious but simple living room, Lin Kei gulped and nervously peered at the girl sitting on the sofa. He cautiously called, "Ninth. Ninth sister?" Yuan grinned and said, "Good boy, foolish Kei, my God." Lin Kei was simply horrified. "Ninth sister, it really is you. Aren't you too freaking gutsy? What if you're discovered? Do you want to die?" Yuan rolled her eyes at him. "Don't waste time. I asked you to come over for proper business." What proper business could be more important than this? You actually impersonated the president's daughter. What's going on with Ninth Brother? Why isn't Ninth Brother managing you? Yuan rested her chin on her hand and languidly asked, "What do you think?" Lin Kei despairingly said, "I think he probably wouldn't, and he'd help her conceal it from everyone." He suddenly freaking understood. Ninth Brother most likely figured it out already. Yet he didn't say anything and was cooperating with her act. As if her acting wasn't enough, his acting skills were through the roof. "Well, then that's that. What are you prattling on about?" "Fine. Ninth sister, why did you call me out here so late at night? It'd be bad if Ninth Brother found out." As Lin Kei spoke, he pulled his clothes close together. "Bad your ass. I have something to ask you, so tell me the truth." Yuan threatened, baring her teeth. Chapter 2350. Too shameless. Lin Kei had an ominous feeling. "What do you want to ask?" Yuan hummed. "It's about Yin Yuerong." At the sound of Yin Yuerong's name, Lin Kei acted like he heard a ghost speak and immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. "I don't know anything. I don't know anything." "Oh." Yuan raised her brows. "TSK, if your Ninth Brother finds out you came running to my place in the middle of the night, what do you think he'd think?" Lin Kei was stupefied. "Damn, didn't you call me over here?" Yuan had an innocent expression. "I didn't. It was clearly you who came over yourself." Lin Kei's eyes shot open. "You, what about me?" "Lin Kei, you're too shameless." Lin had no choice but to admit defeat, his head drooping. "What do you want to know about her?" Yuan thought about it. "You could tell me everything you know. For example, Yin Yuerong and Ajio's relationship." Lin Kei sighed and said, "Well, Annie Rong, how should I describe her? Her sense of control is just too twisted and she won't permit anything related to Ninth Brother to escape her realm of control. Since he was young, as long as there was anything around Ninth Brother that was out of her control, whether it was a person or object, even a small bird, nothing would be spared. If Ninth Brother committed the slightest mistake, he would receive extremely severe punishment. An example of the slightest mistake could be eating an extra mouthful of rice or mispronouncing one word wrong. Can you dare to imagine how she'd make a 3-year-old child kneel in the snow in the middle of winter? When we were young, Ninth Brother and I rescued an injured white tiger, and my Ninth Brother liked that little white tiger a lot and would go play with it every day. In the end, Annie Rong killed that little white tiger in front of Ninth Brother. When Yuan heard this, she frowned lightly, Great White popping up in her mind. After she recovered her memories, she realized that it was she who rescued Great White. Back when she was with Si Yihan, she encountered an injured young white tiger in the wild and felt bad for him, so she wanted to save him and bring him back. However, Si Yihan was not only unmoved, but also stopped her from saving the tiger. Because of this, she even got into an argument with Si Yihan and ignored him for a long while. Thinking about it now, Si Yihan was probably so resistant and unwilling to rescue Great White because of that incident when he was young. No wonder Si Yihan developed such an antisocial and apathetic personality. Having lived under Yin Yuerong's impact and control for so long, he didn't dare to allow any person or being to get close to him, because in his subconscious mind, he believed that he'd lose everything he possessed and everything he was close to would be destroyed. As time passed, no one dared to approach him, and he was the only one left in his world. Lin Kei mumbled quietly, Do you finally know why ninth brother developed such a distorted personality? If it were anyone else, I wager they would have been forced into madness already. However, what caused Inyuron to become like this? Yuanwan was uncomprehending. Sigh, probably because she couldn't obtain what she wanted and became trapped with that demon. Lin Kei said with a sigh. Because of Agio's father? Yuanwan asked. Basically, Lin Kei provided a simple explanation. In truth, when Annie Roan was young, her personality wasn't like this. Annie Roan was the Sage Gu doctor's youngest, most favored disciple and was very talented in martial arts too. Plus, with her beautiful looks, many men pursued her. Of course, I heard all of this from my elders, so I only know the story roughly. Continue. Chapter 2351. Hidden past. Lin Kei continued. As for ninth brother's father, Si Huaizhong, you should know that according to the rules, many people whose talents didn't meet the standards were evicted from the independent state, and many of these people created a clan and amassed power in China. They devoted their efforts to nurturing their children with the hope that they could return to the independent state one day. Si Huaizhong was one of those descendants who met the standards and was brought back to the independent state. He returned to the ancient Si clan and became very valued too. He and Annie Rong met during a mission once, and Annie Rong fell in love with him at first sight. She ignored all of the other outstanding pursuers wooing her and placed her heart and soul on Si Huaizhong. Unfortunately, it was unrequited. Ninth brother's father fell in love with a girl from China and even forsook the rare opportunity of returning to the independent state for that girl. He abandoned his clan and fled back to China, eloping with that Chinese girl. Yuanwan was astonished when she heard this. This hidden past was lost in the mists of antiquity, and no one dared to mention it due to Inyuerong's looming intimidation. So First Elder and the others hadn't discovered this. If it weren't for Lin Kei, she really wouldn't know all of this. Yuanwan asked, and then Lin Kei sighed. And then, you should know how severe the independent state's laws are, so how could the ancient Si clan tolerate something like this? In order to avoid having their clan implicated, they kept hunting Si Huaizhong. In the end, it was Annie Rong who rescued Si Huaizhong and left the independent state for him. Lin Kei paused and continued. Later, that Chinese girl didn't want to live in fear and trepidation anymore, so she left Si Huaizhong and got married to someone else. Because Si Huaizhong violated the laws of the independent state, he received extremely severe punishments and even dragged down his clan and parents. In the end, because of Si Huaizhong's mother's relentless imploring and persuasion, Si Huaizhong had to marry Annie Rong. Annie Rong's master possessed a very prestigious reputation in the independent state back then and pleaded for leniency on their behalf, so the matter was finally resolved. However, from then on, Si Huaizhong and Annie Rong weren't allowed to return to the independent state. It was no wonder that back in China, grandmother kept saying she regretted letting Agio's parents get together. It was because of this. After Yi Wanwan listened to this, she truly didn't know what to say. Wasn't Inyuerong's sacrifice too great? For a man who didn't love her, she basically abandoned everything she possessed. A woman gave so much for him. But are you saying that Si Huaizhong wasn't touched in the slightest? Yuanwan couldn't figure out how Si Huaizhong could fool around with so many women later and sire so many children. Lin Kei shrugged. I heard that their relationship after getting married was okay, and they managed the Si clan in China rather well. However, later on, something melodramatic happened. Si Huaizhong's sweetheart probably didn't have a good life after getting married, so she sought out Si Huaizhong. Si Huaizhong couldn't control himself, and the two of them got together again. The corner of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. Damn, that's scummy? Thank goodness Agio didn't inherit this trait from his father. Yuanwan couldn't help but ask, didn't Inyuerong explode with anger? Lin Kei immediately replied, how could she not be angry? Regardless of how much Annie Rong liked Si Huaizhong and followed his wishes for everything, she couldn't tolerate this kind of matter. After all, what she cared about the most was Si Huaizhong's first love. So afterward, Andy Rome wrecked the company that woman and her husband opened in a fit of anger. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.